as the crew returns to Earth tonight.
Artemis II crew is go for launch.
3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
We surpassed the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. To all of you down there on Earth and around Earth, we love you from the moon. It is quite an impressive sight. Wow, it's amazing.
And we saw sights that no human has ever seen before, not even in Apollo.
It is the thrill and honor of a lifetime to have been on this journey.
We will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other.
I'm inspired. This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jerika Duncan. Thank you so much for joining us as history is being made. The members of the first crewed flight to the moon in more than 50 years are about to return to Earth. In less than 40 minutes, the Artemis II team will splash down off the coast of San Diego. This will cap a successful 10-day mission that took Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen further than any human has ever traveled. In total, from the start to the finish, their flight will be estimated at 694,481 miles. There was another part of this history that was made on this flight as well. Cook was the first woman on a lunar mission, Glover the first African American, and Jeremy Hansen the first Canadian. Minutes from now, the entry sequence will begin. The Artemis II crew will eventually enter the atmosphere in the Orion capsule at nearly, get this, 24,000 miles per hour. And if that is not big enough for you, the heat shield on reentry will endure temperatures as high as 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This 10-day mission has been a technological and scientific success for NASA, but also captured the attention of the world with breathtaking images of the moon we have never, ever seen before. Artemis II is an important step in NASA's planned return to the moon in 2028 and the eventual goal of building a base there. Senior national correspondent Mark Strassman has been covering the entire Artemis space program, and he is at NASA's Johnson Space Center Mission Control for the Artemis II crew. Mark, walk us through what is happening and how you are feeling at this hour.
Well, I'm feeling hopeful and fingers crossed, of course, that it all goes well. I want to walk you through, Jerika, the next milestone in this reentry process that is critical, and that is the separation of the service module and the crew module. The service module sits underneath the crew module. 4 bolts are going to fire that will separate the two. The service module will plunge to Earth and burn up in the atmosphere. Why this is important? Because once the service module is gone, it exposes the heat shield that's at the bottom of the crew capsule. The heat shield is so important because, as you just described, Jerika, the temperatures are going to be incredibly hot, up to 5,000 degrees. That's half the surface temperature of the sun. And the heat shield is absolutely crucial to protect the lives of the 4 astronauts as they plunge to Earth. They will be, when they re-enter, about 76 miles high, north of the Pacific and southeast of Hawaii. And at that point, it will be about a 13-minute plunge to the ocean. There'll be parachutes will come in 3 phases. It will gradually decelerate, of course, first very quickly and then very gradually when the chutes open. But about 20 minutes from now, Jerika, we're going to have, with any luck, 4 astronauts who went deeper into space than any humans ever have back here.
And
home
Mark,
again.
That separation that you talk about, we're just seeing that happening right now. I want to go to CBS News space contributor Bill Harwood. This, as you know, Bill, is considered one of the most dangerous parts of the mission. During Artemis I's re-entry, there was a problem with that heat shield. How did NASA adjust for this mission? What changes did they make?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Jerika. You know, when we saw separation, we just saw that heat shield for the very first time as the capsule pulled away from that service module. You know, during that first flight, they were surprised to discover some damage to the heat shield. The capsule made it down safely. There was no one on board, but had there been anybody on board, they would have been fine. But they weren't expecting that damage. They spent more than a year investigating this, carrying out extensive tests, and they ultimately decided it's safe to come in again with the same heat shield by using a different trajectory. You know, it kind of comes in like a stone skipping on water. It comes down, bounces back up off the atmosphere, and then comes down again. The damage was related to it coming back up out of the atmosphere and this heat shield cooling off more than they thought, and that led to that damage, a heat problem down deep. This time around, they're still going to do a tiny skip, but not much of one. It'll keep the heat shield hot. That's what allows the thing to work properly and prevent any damage from happening. They're very optimistic. This is all going to work flawlessly, but as Mark said, it's a nail-biting moment, no question about it.
Yeah, I think we can all feel that right now, and just waiting for that 8:07 to approach, and prayerfully everything goes according to plan. Joining me here in New York is former NASA astronaut Suni Williams. She completed 3 missions aboard the International Space Station. Suni is second on the list of cumulative time in space by a NASA astronaut with 608 days in space. Suni, you've gone through this yourself. Just give us a sense of what the astronauts are thinking right now and what you're feeling.
Just to quickly talk about Reed and Victor and Christina and Jeremy. I think they're pretty excited right now.
Yeah.
That milestone that just happened, the separation, everything needs to go as planned, and that's like the first step of really just starting to come home, as the timeline indicated. You guys have mentioned before. So they're excited. They're in their seats. They're all strapped in. They're probably getting ready, you know, talking about they're going to start to feel, you know, gravity before too long, and that allows you actually to tighten down your straps, because before that you put your seatbelt on, but you're still sort of floating.
Right.
So they're probably anticipating this is going to happen before long, and just get themselves buckled in as good as possible as they start to do the re-entry into the atmosphere. So they're pumped. I'm sure they're excited. This is sort of the end, but also a very exciting time. I'm so excited for them. This has been an amazing mission, 10 days of just one awesome thing to see after another. I mean, it's just awesome. I have a little piece of, you know, a little jealous inside of me, like, man, I wish I was up there. I wish I was being able to do that. You know, that's so cool. But I'm so happy for this generation of astronauts to be able to do this and open the door for us, you know, being able to be sustainably on the moon. And this is just cracking the door open to that, and to lead to so many more discoveries as we pave our way, getting closer and closer to going to Mars.
Yeah, I know before we went on air, when I asked you, do you miss it? Do you wish that was you in there right now? And you said yes, absolutely. I want to bring in another distinguished former NASA astronaut, Brigadier General Nick Hague. General Hague has completed 2 missions on the International Space Station and is now the Assistant Deputy Chief of Space Operations for the United States Space Force. Nick, you also experienced splashdown, one with Suni, actually. Describe what this experience is like for you, and especially those who have experience being in space.
Yeah, at the end of a mission, it's the huge exclamation point. It is exciting, and you know, Suni nailed it in her description. It is a dynamic ride that has, as you start to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, you start to feel G's that you haven't felt in a while, and then all of a sudden your heat shield starts to work, and outside the window you're watching bits and pieces of your heat shield burn and streak by, and you're inside this ball of fire, and then that culminates with slowing down, and chutes come out, and all of a sudden you're bobbing in the water. It is, you know, for the crews, it's that first moment in the mission where they can effectively relax a little bit, because there's not much left for them to do. Now it's just the recovery forces coming to get them out of the capsule.
And we're going to come back to you in a second, Nick. CBS News national correspondent Carter Evans is actually in San Diego, where a United States Navy team launched from one of the Orion recovery positions. Carter, how big is an effort? How big is that effort right now?
The recovery effort is huge, and nothing about it is improvised. They have been practicing this, the team that is, they've been practicing this for years. All right, so this is the USS John P. Murtha. It is an amphibious docking ship. So basically what it does is it has a wet deck on board, it has a helicopter pad, it has a medical bay, all the communications they need. And what they've been doing over the last couple of years is practicing this, every possibility, over and over and over again. When it hits the water, what's going to happen after that? Who is going to be the first person to open the door? Who is going to be the first astronaut out? What is the plan? They've been practicing that for quite some time. What they have also been practicing is recovering the capsule. Once they've safely got those astronauts out of the capsule and onto the ship, they want to get the capsule onto the ship. Now, I mentioned that this is an amphibious ship. It has a wet dock. It's essentially like a garage, and they've practiced this over and over again as well. Getting that capsule into the garage, they say it's like pulling a car into a garage, and we're going to get a look at it coming up in just a little while.
And we can't wait. And someone who knows all about that, Carter, is retired Lieutenant Colonel David Mahan, also joins us on the set. He is the former director of the operations for the group tasked to recover and rescue astronauts. David, how will the operation work once the Orion capsule splashes down? We heard a little bit from Carter, but you have that know-how. Tell us what we can expect to see.
Absolutely. So I would say you're going to see what is the definition of a team. So the partnership between the military and NASA and all the different agencies that are involved in this, they've been practicing this for years. So the capsule is going to splash down. The ship is going to be about 2 nautical miles away from that. And one of the teams that's behind the scenes that people don't get to see a lot is the weather side of the house. So they're going to be releasing weather balloons because the ship wants to get as close to that splashdown as they possibly can. Obviously taking into account the debris that's expected to fall off to keep the aircraft and the ship safe. So once they do that, they're going to approach the capsule. They're going to check for hazards to make sure it's safe to approach, open the hatch, do initial medical check on the crew, and then they're going to start extracting them. They're going to take them out on a front porch, and then they're going to hoist them and take them to the ship so they can get med checks.
You say this with such ease, and you're so calm. You have so much confidence, though, in the science and the practice and the years of training. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So absolutely. So the teams that have been doing this for years. So professionals, experts at what they do. It's been a partnership with NASA and the military, with the National Guard, with the reserves, with the Air Force, with the Space Force, with the Coast Guard. I'm sure I'm leaving some out, but it is really, truly a joint effort with a team of professionals that are there and they know what they're doing.
All right, we look forward to seeing that teamwork at its finest. I want to turn now to CBS News meteorologist Rob Marciano. How does the forecast look for Artemis II?
Well, first of all, it's so great to have you guys on set because you're calming us down, because Jarika and I are very anxious about what's about to go down tonight. I'm not so anxious about the forecast itself. It looks pretty good. We got this big event, so let's go to the big wall here and talk about it. You know, it's not your typical San Diego weather for April, which would mean crystal blue skies, high pressure control. We actually have a late season storm that's hitting Northern California right now, even bringing some tornado warnings to the Bay Area. Luckily, the troughiness and the cold front is far enough back to where it shouldn't interfere. But you can see we do have some clouds at the lower levels and at the upper levels. That might limit some of the visibility. But what we saw there from the boat or from the ship, it looks pretty good. Can you believe this thing starts its entry at 2,000 miles away, out near Hawaii, and then slows down from 24,000 miles an hour down to a landing here just about 50 miles. The way they calculate this is amazing to me as well. All right, so water temperatures, 65 degrees, about the air temperature as well. Winds 7 miles an hour, that's important. Waves now up to 5 feet, all right? So some of the criteria with this is that you can't have waves greater than 6 feet. So that's, and that's more so for the safety of the crew and the rescue crews trying to get the guys out of the capsule there. So that's still what we think is going to be happening here. We do have a little bit of cloud cover, mostly east towards the landfall there, but weather does look to be okay. Certainly could be worse. They can't have any rainfall, right? Because I would imagine the rainfall would knock down the parachutes.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be good. That doesn't seem to be an issue. But I'm very nervous about the reentry before the chutes open.
Yeah, I have to say, even just flying.
Thank you.
I know
Don't worry.
But even just flying in a plane, sometimes you worry about turbulence and all of that. To hear 24,000 miles an hour coming in, back to Earth, it's like, how is that possible? It's really amazing. As we wait, though, for the crew to return to Earth, let's take a look back at some of the sights and sounds of this historic mission around the moon.
We are going for all humanity. Your Artemis II crew is go for launch.
3, 2, 1. booster ignition, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon.
Core stage separated.
We have good separation, good motion.
Your integrity crew is go for TLI. With this burn to the moon, we do not leave Earth. We choose it.
Integrity looks like a good burn. We're confirming.
We surpassed the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. And our crew would like to propose a couple of potential names for those items or those areas. We lost a loved one. Her name was Carol, and we would like to call it Carol.
Integrity and Carol Crater. Loud and clear.
As we prepare to go out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth.
Houston, we have you the same, and it is so great to hear from Earth again.
This is continues to be unreal. The sun has gone behind the moon.
You are special. In all of this emptiness, this is a whole bunch of nothing, this thing we call the universe. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together.
The four of us having been there just now, this is nothing short of a miracle.
And back here with us, former NASA astronaut Sunny Williams. It doesn't get old. I see you tearing up as we were watching.
No, it never gets old. It's really, really cool because you know that these are your friends that are on board. So, no, I'm not nervous. I'm just really excited and really happy for them. I know that this, like we mentioned before, this is a huge team effort over, a decade working on trying to make sure that, everything, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. They changed the entry profile just to make sure, because of the heat shield issues on the previous flight, to make sure that they're going to get back. So, yes, emotional, but in a really happy way.
I mean, you must feel like part of your soul is with them on this.
Oh, absolutely. I know all those guys very, very well. Yeah. Got to be actually on the selection board for a couple of those astronauts, the Americans, and of course I've known Jeremy for a long time as well. So I've known them as baby astronauts and seen them grow up, and hopefully we gave them some good lessons along the way.
If you look at your screen right now on the far left side, well, actually the full screen, you can see the images of the astronauts there. And we just heard from NASA that they said everything is in excellent shape. So thumbs up there as we continue to see and watch what is happening and watch the people. I mean, you can see folks outside smiling and just so excited. And Rob, I know you got a chance to be in the midst of that, talking to the young people. I think you got a little choked up at one point.
You can't help it. It's a different vibe now. We went from the launch where people were gathered around the launch pad itself or in view of the launch pad, or even launch parties around the country, right? Watching this thing go up, and it was a very communal event, and once it went up, it was joyful, and you're just in awe of the whole spectacle, and cheering them on, and sending your kids off to school or something. Hope to see you on the way back, right? But now it's a different vibe. Now, I mean, it's great to be with everybody here, but we're kind of now witnessing it, a little bit more secluded, right? Maybe in our living rooms at home, watching on TV. Probably the biggest groups are at Mission Control and on that ship right now. So it's definitely a different vibe, and one that's hopefully we'll be celebrating here in just a few minutes.
I want to turn back to Nick Hague there in Washington. What part of the mission stood out to you, Nick?
Well, when I was glued to the feed when they were doing the lunar flyby, knowing them so well and being able to watch them on the stream from the capsule and see their body language and the excitement, I was riveted. So that 6 hours, couldn't stop watching. And then to see some of the first images that they were able to transmit down in high definition of the moon with the Earth in the background, it's just so captivating. It's so exciting. It says this is the beginning, and that's what this is. This is a test mission that is paving the way for follow-on missions so that we can get to the moon and establish a base on it and continue to explore.
You see some of those pictures beside you right now of the moon, the pictures that we had not seen before, those craters, and I think so much of what this exploration represents is the future. I want to turn to senior national correspondent Mark Strassman. He's at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Mark, if you could touch on the developments, the exploration, the advancement in technology, and where ultimately this gets us closer to.
Well, remember, this is the first lunar mission in more than a half century. It's the dawn of really a new lunar era for NASA of human exploration. Haven't been there since 1972 in Apollo 17, and this is the next step to an eventual moon landing, which would come with the Artemis IV, which NASA has scheduled for early in 2028. I'm just also struck by how far this crew has come. I mean, physically, that is, remember just 4 days ago, they were another 250,000 miles in deep space, further than any human being has ever gone before. But then just as people, I mean, we were all touched and moved and stirred by some of the images that they sent back to us of the solar eclipse and the far side of the moon and Earthsat. And you could tell how touched they were, too, that even though 3 of the 4 of them were experienced astronauts, had been into low Earth orbit with the International Space Station, this was just a different experience and a different perspective that they shared with us through their pictures. And it was just sort of remarkable to experience vicariously through their eyes and through their interpretation of events. And it really, I think, opened the eyes for a lot of people looking on. Remember, Jerika, that 3 of every 4 people on planet Earth alive today were born after Apollo 17. So this is their first time witnessing any person come anywhere near the moon. And this will be something that they will always remember. And can you imagine what it's going to be like when we have a moon landing? I mean, you think the excitement here was huge. I mean, that one will be through the roof.
Yeah, and we're watching the live pictures right now from Artemis as they're getting closer and closer to Earth. I want to go back to CBS News contributor, space contributor Bill Harwood. There are ambitious goals, absolutely, for the Artemis program going forward. What are they? And how likely are we to see some of those goals, you know, them meet what they want in terms of getting to Mars or, you know, companies being able to do things that they're not doing now? How close are we to that next phase?
Well, it's interesting, you know, Jerika, the Artemis moon program right now, the plan calls for a flight next year to test docking and rendezvous procedures with moon landers in Earth orbit. Those landers are being built by SpaceX and Blue Origin. If they get that worked out in 2028, NASA wants to land 1 mission, if not 2 missions on the moon, put boots on the moon near the moon's south pole, and that's going to lead to what NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman says will be 2 moon landings a year as the agency begins building a lunar base near the South Pole. But I got to tell you, you know, that's assuming successive administrations, successive Congresses provide the funding for all that. Isaacman is optimistic, but you know, a lot of Americans look at the moon as we've been there, we've done that. We won the original space race back in the 70s or 60s and 70s, and might not see the value in spending that kind of money to build moon bases and that stuff. But the agency wants to do that. They view the moon as a stepping stone to Mars, and so that's the logical next step.
All right. Again, we're looking at the live picture, and we just see it getting closer and closer very quickly, about 20 minutes away, potentially from splashdown. Joining us now is Jana Levin, a CBS News contributor and professor of physics and astronomy at Barnard College. Professor, what do you think the impact of this mission will ultimately be?
Well, we're back in our journey exploring both the solar system, but also, in some sense, more of Earth. It's thought that the moon is actually part of the Earth, that there was this cataclysmic collision 4.5 billion years ago when the Earth was forming, and that material, some of it fell back to Earth, but a big chunk of it became our moon. So in some sense, I think we're really expanding our horizon of what we think of as home.
We have crossed the threshold now.
And again, looking at those live pictures, getting closer and closer, Jana, the Artemis II crew, they are now roughly 400,000 feet above Earth and about to make their first contact with the upper atmosphere. During this time period, they will enter a radio blackout for 6 minutes due to the plasma formation around the Orion capsule upon hitting the atmosphere. Let's take some time to listen in to Mission Control.
And as predicted, we've entered our communications blackout. This will be a 6-minute blackout period. No voice, no data from the crew. We're 30 seconds away from the anticipated point of peak heating on the vehicle, where temperatures will rise to about 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the true test of our trajectory. And from the G5 aircraft in the vicinity of the splashdown zone, this view of integrity. So that pinpoint of light shows the vehicle as it enters the period of peak heating in the Earth's atmosphere, the first tug of gravity being felt by Integrity's astronauts since their launch back on April 1st. Four and a half minutes until the end of the blackout period. Time to splashdown, 11 minutes, 33 seconds.
That little dot was.
You are looking at what appears to be a ball of fire moving at a pace that it is not normal. This is a visualization, excuse me.
The landing and support officer
but this is essentially what is happening. Sunny, your reaction?
An exciting time. Obviously, you know, we can't talk to the ground because during these time frames when we're coming in, because of this ball of fire that's all around us.
Yes.
And the windows, they'll be able to see, you know, plasma going by the windows that we do in all the other spacecrafts. You see the spacecraft sort of change color, you know, around because of that outside of the window. So they're probably seeing some of that plasma right near as they're looking out the windows. You know, Reed and Victor right there. So pretty exciting time frame. You know what's going on. Like Victor mentioned one time in one of the interviews, riding a ball of fire into the atmosphere is a little exciting. But
what does it feel like? Are the G-forces, and then does it get warmer inside the capsule?
No, it doesn't get warmer inside. That's the capsule is made for that. The heat shield is made for that. This entry was made specifically knowing that they had some issues from before. And so, no, you don't feel the heat inside, but you can just see what's going on around you. You'll start feeling the G-forces since they've started coming into the atmosphere. So like I said, now they're getting a little bit pushed, and the G-forces change during the entry. So there's a couple times that it feels like it's pushing down on you, then it will let up, and then it'll push down on you again. So you know you're coming home. This is obvious time right now that you know that you're coming home.
Yeah, and Sunny, thank you for that description. I want to turn to former astronaut Nick Hague. Nick, what do you remember about the experience, and are you smiling at this point? Are you nervous? Like, what's the feeling as you're entering, back, getting ready for that splashdown?
Yeah,
Walk us through that.
It's an assault on the senses. Sunny hit it right. I look out the window and you get this light show, which is amazing when you think about the physics behind the heat shield and how it slowly melts away and burns away and brings you and slows you down. But you also get a lot of sound. You're out in the vacuum of space, and there's not a lot of sound that you hear as you interface with the very upper atmosphere. But as you get deeper into the atmosphere, you start to hear wind noise, and you really get a sense for the speed that you're going. It's a pretty amazing ride.
Wow. Again, a visualization. Although Rob and I both were like, oh, my gosh, it's happening.
And you talk about this inferno outside your window like it's an everyday thing. It's just, at any point during your mind when you go through one of these reentries, do you think, oh, I hope this heat shield works here?
Oh, again, to talk about the team, a decade of people really crossing the T's and dotting the I's, making sure, we've taken all the lessons learned on spacecraft beforehand and incorporating into that. So we we have a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in this business and in our team to make sure that they do the right thing.
And is there any chit-chat going on during this blackout period?
I'm sure. I'm sure they're like looking at each other, and probably the color inside of the spacecraft's a little bit different because of the plasma. I remember on Soyuz, everybody looked a little bit, the whole inside looked a little bit pink because we have windows on the side. So yeah, I'm sure they're looking around and talking to each other about it.
Well, NASA is about to reestablish contact with Mission Control, so we want to listen in and hear what they have to say.
We are now processing data from Integrity. Landing and support officer reports the small boats are en route to the splashdown target zone. Passing through 150,000 feet, our trajectory is perfect. We're getting intermittent views of Integrity. Still waiting to establish voice communication.
Integrity, Houston, comm check, post-blackout.
Houston, Integrity, we have you loud and clear.
Your trajectory is nominal, and your recovery teams have visual.
Guidance looks good.
No action for the enabled internal camera controller fail.
Big cheers from the viewing room here in Mission Control as
everything looking good as we're just listening to Mission Control talk about the data that they're already processing as the capsule makes its way to its splashdown. I want to turn to you, Dave, because now we're at the point where they're talking about the boats getting ready. Again, this is something that, you know, you've planned. This is years in the making. What's going through the minds of those who are there, and they're also getting this information in real time.
So as everybody's tracking everything, they're just executing what they've been trained to do. So it's game on for everybody there. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy to hear from the crew now that they have contact back. And everybody's going to start moving closer and closer to the capsule and ready to extract the crew from the spacecraft.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what we're seeing right there, that first.
It is. So that is one of the small boats moving in. So everything is precise based on time. And as time goes on and debris gets tracked and stuff like that, they'll actually move closer and closer to the spacecraft.
Integrity impact to the camera controller fail.
And right now the ship is headed in from one of their checkpoints as well to get closer.
When you think about what is gained from some of what we're learning and the idea of possibly being able to go even beyond the moon one day, why did it take so long?
Time to splash down 4.5 minutes.
Well, you know, we spent the last couple decades building the International Space Station and flying the space shuttle to learn about how we operate in low Earth orbit. And we've learned so much from that, that it's sort of opened the door. You know, of course, technology as it comes in computers, but also manufacturing, all of that has changed over the last like 3 decades and allows us to build these amazing spacecraft nowadays that allow the crew members to take those observations, which was, oh, there it is.
And then you have a NASA plane right now capturing Artemis II, making its way down. Again, we know that the speed at this point is, I believe we're at about, I want to listen to Mission Control, but I'm not sure if we're at the maximum or if we've passed that period yet.
I think we're subsonic now.
We're subsonic, so they probably heard the boom.
Yeah.
And still no parachute. There you go.
Oh, there's the parachute.
And
Okay.
there go the first series of parachutes.
And we're about 4 minutes
and
away.
we're on drogues.
Yeah.
You hear people cheering.
Here we go. Yeah.
2 drogues out the window.
Look at that.
2 good drogue shoots. Next up.
We copy. We see them.
Next up, the deployment of pilot parachutes that will pull the main chutes out. Time to splash down 3 minutes and 10 seconds. perfect descent rate according to flight dynamics.
Good rates on 2 drogues.
We see the same on board.
Passing through 10,000 feet, still on drogues. Main chute deploy. We're at 5,000 feet. Search and recovery beacon has been activated on integrity. And we have 3 good main chutes. Good 3 main chutes, good reefing, good descent rate.
Good rates, and we see 3 good-looking parachutes. Integrity. Cabin pressure indicates no need for hydrazine checks.
Integrity copies.
This is a perfect descent for Integrity. Its crew sounding hale and hearty on board. Time to splashdown 1 minute, 15 seconds. Integrity about to complete a journey spanning 694,481 miles from its launch from the Kennedy Space Center back on April 1st, and a trip around the moon. Passing through 1,000 feet.
Integrity, splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time. From the pages of Jules Verne to a modern-day mission to the moon, a new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth. And the landing and support officer reports the vehicle is stable 1. We still will be deploying the crew module uprighting system to maintain that orientation. A perfect bullseye splashdown for Integrity and its 4 astronauts.
We are all breathing a sigh of relief. So much excitement. We're clapping with everybody else.
So good.
We're watching it. As you just heard, Rob Navias, the NASA commentator there, saying that this was pretty much a perfect landing with precision, the way that it oriented itself. Sunny, Dave, give us your thoughts as you're watching. as you're seeing everything work the way that it's supposed to?
I'm super excited for these guys. And, you know, it's funny because you do this like check, check, check as one thing after another. As we were watching all the parachutes come out, there was 11 on this vehicle. So when you, one after another, and you can feel when the mains come out. And then it's like, okay, great. That's good. We're going to land a little softer than if we didn't have those. So that's a good thing, right? So it's like check, check. Next thing is, you know, the crew is then getting ready for the splashdown. So they're just making sure, you know, their bodies are in the right position. They're all strapped in as good as they can. And the splashdown, of course, itself, you know, okay, boom, we're down, and now let's make sure we're staying upright, because that would be good and not be, you know, turned over, which we call stable too. So that's another check. And now I think they're just hanging out, waiting for the rescue forces to come get them. Just happy, you know, to have them back on the ground. It's really awesome.
And Dave, to that point with the splashdown, how long before we could possibly see the astronauts?
Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement, and all the forces that have been training for this for a long time are starting to move in. You can see the small vessels moving in right now. From the hatch opening till having them in the med bay is going to be an hour or less, is what they're shooting for. So they're going to get there as quick as possible, make sure everything is good, and then they're going to get them out of the capsule so they can start hoisting them.
All right, I want to turn to Nick Hague. You know, this is a small community. It's like you all are all family, having experienced this on some level, maybe not to this extent, obviously, but you've been to space, you've been in a splashdown, you're watching these images as they're coming in. What's going through your mind?
I'm happy for them. It's so exciting. I think that you mentioned a word, family, right? So the mission really isn't over until you get them back to their families. And so that's what this big team is out there doing. They're going to extract a crew. They're going to get them back to the vessel. They're going to get them on a helicopter that's going to take them back to San Diego, and then they're going to get on a plane and go back to Ellington in Houston and finally reunite with their families. And that's when, you know, the mission itself is pretty much over. But this is just watching them splash down. You know, you can't help but smile and feel the excitement and be proud of those 4 individuals and their families and the sacrifices that they've made, and the whole team at NASA and the whole team you see in action right here. It's just amazing what we can do when we come together, and this is a really proud moment for the country.
Absolutely. We just heard from NASA saying that Commander Reed Weissman just radioed in, and he said, quote, all 4 astronauts are in good condition. You know, something that struck me, Sunny, Dave, you guys could speak on this, but he said during one of his interviews, the challenge now is to this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived. How do we accomplish that?
Absolutely. You know, this is one of those things, this is like I mentioned in the beginning, this is just opening the door. What he meant by that was the next thing is going to be even better. The next thing is even better. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep exploring. We're going to keep finding questions that we didn't even think to ask by doing this. And so I think the records, if they're distance, if they're time, whatever, we're going to, you know, conquer those in short order. And we hope that we've inspired the next generation to take on that challenge and to dream big and to think about, you know, things bigger than right in front of them. Like what is next? So I think that's the challenge.
Dave?
And I think the Artemis motto says it all, for all humanity.
Mm-hmm. Jana, if you're still with us, I want to bring that same question to you in terms of the idea of not letting this be the point where we stop and we're talking about another 50 years, but we're talking about this actively in the next 2 to 3 years as the race continues to be the first to do a lot of these different things.
Yeah, it's an entirely new time when we're thinking about actually developing a station on the moon. And that's just a next adventure. Can we build places to live? Can we find the resources in the regolith? Can we extract water? Can we extract fuel? So it really is a new era. And obviously, it's incredibly exciting. I was very nervous watching that splashdown, so I'm still recovering. But it's really a thrilling time.
Talk to us, too, about the funding. I mean, this mission we're talking billions of dollars every time to go up there. Yeah. And as mentioned earlier in this special report, just having the support of different administrations. As people, you know, will say, look at the things happening here on Earth. How can we afford to continue this exploration and want to see those positive results that could impact everybody, mankind.
Yeah, I think when we have missions like this, we have that overview effect that the astronauts have been talking about, looking at the Earth as a whole, having a sense that this isn't partisan, this is about being a human being, and it's an international effort, it's an international collaboration. And what we find historically is that by investing in science, by investing in curiosity, by celebrating exploration, that we also invent, we innovate, we end up impacting Earth in ways that are completely unforeseen, that we can't predict. But it lifts us all up. So it's not linear. It's not simply spend a dollar or lose a dollar somewhere else. It actually rises up all of us, I think, in the end.
And Jana, stay with us. Right now, though, I want to go to CBS News national correspondent Carter Evans. He's in San Diego. Carter?
That's not an issue. What is more important is
I got to tell you, I had goosebumps here the whole time, and I breathed a sigh of relief when we came out of that 6-minute blackout. There are actually people here along the waterfront, even though you can't see this. People here are out there. They're looking. They're hoping they could see something, but I think people just want to be a part of this, and that's why they're here. And this does feel like a collective moment for all of us right now. Let's talk about what's going to happen next. We're in this period right now where Navy divers are kind of waiting. They're waiting for some of those hot, maybe dangerous gases to dissipate off the capsule, and then they're going to move in. And what's going to happen is they're going to install a stabilizing collar around the capsule, and basically that's going to keep it stable and keep it from rocking too much in the ocean. And then I also heard one of our astronaut commentators talking about the front porch. That's an inflatable raft that they're going to pull up to the front of this, where they're basically going to, those Navy divers who are also medical doctors are going to climb onto that raft. They're going to open the capsule, and they're going to go inside the capsule first to check on those astronauts, make sure they're okay, and then they're going to start moving forward with the mission to get them out. We've got 4 helicopters circling overhead right now, 2 for imagery and 2 to transport astronauts. Now the order in which they're going to leave the capsule has already been decided. We're not sure what it is. We're not privy to that, but here's what's going to happen. They're going to hoist them up with helicopters, and they're going to bring them back over to the ship, and then they're going to start a barrage of medical tests. We're talking about saliva samples, blood tests, motor tests, cognitive tests, and those are going to be going on for the next few hours just to see how this space flight over the last 10 days in this microgravity environment has impacted these astronauts. Once they are ready, they could take a nap on the ship if they want. They could stay there for the night if they want, but more likely they're going to bring them back here to North Island Naval Station by helicopter. They could potentially spend the night here in San Diego at a hotel before they move on to Houston and reunite with their families.
All right, well, chivalry is not dead, so I want to see astronaut Cook come off first. Ladies first. I want to turn to you now, though, Rob Marciano, who has a special update for us. So excited about this one.
Well, it's a follow-up story, as we say in the news business. So last week at the launch, I got to meet a lot of great Americans, a lot of young, aspiring astronauts as well outside the Kennedy Space Center. We got to speak with one young future astronaut. Take a listen.
I'm so obsessed with space, so I'll see Orion launch from ground to sky, so it'll be totally exciting.
Well, Commander Jack instantly launched to superstar status after that, as you can imagine. So we're bringing him back. There he is with Mom and Dad.
Hey.
Joining us, I assume, from Atlanta. They drove from Atlanta to the Space Center to watch the launch. And there you are. Hey, Mom, did you wash the spacesuit? Because I know it was not quite as white by the end of the launch there a week and a half ago.
We did wash it, but it's honestly stained. We need to get a new spacesuit.
I love it. Get yourself an orange one. That's the key on launch and landing. All right, Jack, you just witnessed your first splashdown. What are you feeling right now?
Happy.
Were you nervous when we didn't hear from the astronauts for that 6-minute blackout period? No, you knew. You're just like the astronauts on set here. They just don't get nervous. I think you're built for this stuff. So after everything that you've seen, you saw the launch with Mom and Dad and your sister and with me, and you've been watching it, I'm sure, throughout the week when you're not at school. Do you still want to be an astronaut after all this?
Yeah.
That's the right answer, Jack. That's the right answer. Look, I know it's past your bedtime, so I don't expect you to be as excited as you were the other afternoon. But I know that you have been wanting to ask the astronaut team a question. Why don't you share that with us if you were to be speaking to the astronauts right now?
Yeah, what did you want to tell them? What did you want to tell Artemis crew? You said you wanted to thank them for something.
Thank you for sending pictures to the world.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we're all saying thank you. Those pictures were absolutely stunning. Jack, do you have a favorite picture? Was it one of the moon itself? Is it the one with the moon and the Earth, or the one with the Earth so far away it looks so tiny? What was your favorite?
Say it loud.
It was like the one which had the word Mars on it, and it was pointing at it too.
So our favorite picture was the eclipse, where you could see Mars in the background.
Oh yeah.
And we showed him where one was labeled so that you could see that it was Mars. So that was our favorite picture, was the eclipse.
I mean,
that was so good.
There you go. I agree. I think you could see Saturn on that one, and all the stars. That was that was amazing. Hey, do you guys think you're going to go to the next launch?
You want to go see Artemis III?
Yeah.
All right, Jack, Lauren, Matt, thank you so much. Good luck to you, Jack. We expect you to be on a rocket here sometime in the near future. Study hard and get yourself through school. You're a fine young man. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye, Jack.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can all agree Jack is going far in life.
How old were you when you knew you wanted to be a
my story's a little convoluted. I didn't know it for a little while. I envy kids like that who have a goal right from the get-go and then go for it. It's pretty spectacular, and this really puts it, at their fingertips when they can be there, watching, a launch or watching, pictures of the moon. They're thinking to themselves, why not? Let us do that. I'm a little older, so it only happened a couple times, that I remember. I was a little young when it all happened, but I can see where kids nowadays are seeing people going to space all the time, now seeing us go to the moon, and I can't imagine that they're not thinking, let me be part of that. I want to be part of that.
And it's possible.
It's possible.
Well, what is possible is we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us as we continue to launch our coverage of Artemis II's return to Earth.
Chilling with the queen, her name is Gail King.
Hey!
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning. CBS Morning. CBS Morning.
CBS Mornings on CBS and where else?
Paramount Plus.
See you at 7.
CBS Mornings.
I want a mug. Yeah, good mug.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like health care? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now? To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the Takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who was a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the Takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
One thing is very clear.
CBS Mornings is clearly fun.
Watching Rocky with Rocky.
Morning, good vibes.
Gail came in singing for me today. CBS Morning.
Weekdays at 7.
You there?
It's time for the CBS News Original 60 Minutes CBS Sunday.
I want to know what's going on in the world.
I'm Tony.
You can't do that if you're just sitting in a chair reading about what other people have found.
What do you think of that? Why?
There are big questions that all of us are asking. I want to get you the answers.
How are you?
I'm Tony DeCopel. Join me on the CBS Evening News.
Welcome back to the CBS News coverage of the Artemis II mission's return to Earth. The 4 crew members just splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. The recovery operations is underway right now by the United States Navy. Before we take you off of the image that you're seeing right there, which was just incredible, that's right now what you're seeing is a live picture. I want to check back in with senior national correspondent Mark Strassman. He's at NASA's Johnson Space Center. What is the definition of success for NASA? I know they kept talking about a safe landing, but it seemed like so many things went well, Mark.
Well, clearly, Jerika, NASA believes that this would not be a home run if the crew did not come back safely, and we completely understand that, too. The crew is back safely. This test flight was aced by the capsule, was aced by the crew, no question about that. I asked Reed Wiseman one time how he would define success, and he essentially said to me, if people barely remember the mission. And I said, what do you mean? He said, because I want there to be so many more exciting things to come, so many more ambitious things to come, that this mission will lead to so much more. But remember, it's a test flight. It's supposed to lead to a moon landing, and then who knows from there? I mean, establish a permanent colony on the moon, lead on to Mars. And that's what Wiseman meant when he said, if people don't remember this mission much, that's fine with him. That means we'll have succeeded.
All right, Mark Strassman, thank you. Going back to CBS News space contributor Bill Harwood, I know you've been covering a lot of these space missions for over 40 years now. Your last thoughts here.
You know, I was struck by something Mark said earlier. If you're under 53 years old, you were not alive when Apollo was flying. The Apollo program is in a history book for you. But this is now. This is real for a new generation. And I think that's really important in terms of getting younger people to think about this, to think about the moon as a destination, not just something you look up at the sky at night and enjoy. Quite a moment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Harwood. And Nick Hague, final thoughts from you in D.C.?
Yeah, you know, this is the step, and there's another step after that. And, you know, you asked, how do we keep this going? Everybody that's watching this, that's excited about this, it takes so many to make this happen. So many people. Join, figure out how to get involved. There's room for you to be able to be part of something like this.
All right, Nick, thank you. And joining me here at the table, we couldn't have done this without you guys. Thank you so much. You've been great in terms of guiding us through the coverage. But as you watch, and we know we're going to see the astronauts come out soon in the next 30 minutes or so, what are your final thoughts as you watch all of this, and again, you hear the clapping and the celebration?
It's been absolutely amazing. This is history, and like your correspondent said, this is for a new generation. And so it's really been amazing, and I know now everybody's just focusing on getting the crew safely back on the ship and getting them to their families, because I know that's the most important thing, and their families have missed them.
Awesome. Sunny?
You know, it's just an amazing event. I think we all got to witness this because of new technologies, and, you know, it's just the beginning. We have so much more to do, and there's so much more to participate in, and it makes me really excited for the future, for the next generation of STEM and astronauts out there.
All right, Sunny, thank you. Rob, thank you for the great weather. Thank you to all of our guests and correspondents. Our coverage of Artemis II return to Earth will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and of course tomorrow on CBS Saturday Morning. CBS Friday primetime programming will begin right now in its entirety for those of you in the East and Central time zones. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Jerika Duncan. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.
Welcome back to CBS News 24/7 Primetime. I'm Juliette Goodrich. You've been watching special coverage of the Artemis II crew splashing down in the Pacific Ocean, and we're now waiting to see the astronauts in person for the first time. Recovery teams are there to help transport them to the USS John P. Murtha, where they will undergo medical evaluations.
Integrity splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time. From the pages of Jules Verne to a modern-day mission to the moon, a new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth.
I could keep watching that splashdown over and over again, Carter. CBS News correspondent Carter Evans live in San Diego. Carter, what can you tell us?
You know, I had goosebumps the whole time. I feel like I held my breath for 6 minutes during that blackout period. There were people down here along the waterfront, even though you couldn't see it with the naked eye. I think everybody wanted to come down here to feel like they were part of something bigger. This is happening about 40, 50 miles off the coast right now. And what's happening right now is we've got Navy divers, medical doctors who are divers. They're in small boats. They're waiting to get in the water right now to approach the capsule. The reason they haven't done it quite yet is because they're still trying to establish communication. Part of the process here is they have to power down the capsule before they enter it. And then they want to establish communication, and they're going to do that through basically a satellite cell phone to the astronauts in there. Once they establish that communication, make sure everything is working and the capsule is shut down, those divers are going to approach it, and they're going to attach something called the front porch. That's what the astronauts call it. It's actually a raft that attaches right below the port there. The door that will be opened by those medical personnel, those Navy divers. They will go inside the capsule first. They'll perform a quick evaluation on the astronauts, and then they'll come out of the capsule onto the front porch in a predetermined order. We're not privy to exactly what that order is, who's going to be the first person to step out. I think that's going to be a pretty big honor. And then they'll be airlifted back to the USS John P. Murtha, which is waiting not far from where you're looking at the capsule right now. They'll be ferried back to that ship one at a time, and they'll undergo some medical evaluations. They'll be given blood tests, saliva tests, cognitive tests, all sorts of motor skills tests. They want to make sure that these astronauts are in good health after this 10-day trip and living in this microgravity environment for the last 10 days. And then they're going to have a choice. They could decide if they wanted to. They could stay on the ship for the night if they feel like they need to rest, or they can come back here to San Diego to North Island Naval Station, and that's likely what is going to happen. They'll probably be flown back here by helicopter after they're checked out on the ship, and then they'll begin another barrage of medical evaluations, including some specific ones tomorrow, Saturday, where they're going to have to perform some maneuvers basically to see how their body and their motor skills are still performing. They're going to have to unfurl a rope ladder, climb up it, hand off a backpack to someone else, simulate things that they would be doing inside the capsule. They're going to simulate docking. So they want to see how these astronauts perform after these extreme stresses on their bodies. And of course, when they head back to the Johnson Space Center, they're going to be reunited with their families. Big party there, and a big sigh of relief here.
Yeah, I think when they're reunited with their family, that's when you say mission accomplished. But Carter, I have to tell you, as we were watching this from a newsroom perspective, we couldn't decide which piece to cut first in terms of editing. Every single thing was spectacular. And I have to tell you, I kept hearing the word precision. And you just can't thank the lucky stars enough that that's what it was. It was precision.
It was absolute precision. There was nothing about this was by chance. They have practiced this recovery team literally for years. They have practiced every single possible outcome. They've practiced this in rough waters. They've practiced it in calm waters. They've practiced this with the actual astronauts themselves. The last time they did a dry run, really a wet run because they were in the ocean, was January 27th of this year. They performed these exact maneuvers. So at this point, it is muscle memory for this recovery team. They know exactly what to do when any situation arises. But as you said, precision is something that is still occurring now, even after the splashdown in this recovery mission. But this has been a precise operation from the beginning, and Now to the end.
Yeah, and Carter, as we're talking to you, we keep showing and replaying the splashdown. That video is remarkable. Carter Evans, we'll talk to you in just a few, but I want to get to CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Boy, here we go. What did you think? What was your reaction? I want to hear it from you.
You know, I just kept thinking, what a ride that must be. You know, 13 minutes to go from 24,000 miles an hour to splashdown at about 15 miles an hour. I mean, it's just incredible. And when you think about the energy that they're taking out of that vehicle with the heat shield, you know, the temperatures up to 5,000 degrees and being able to manage all that, and then 11 parachutes have to deploy in just the right order, at just the right altitudes to get them safely down to the water. Just a remarkable thing to watch. I can't say I'm stunned. I mean, I knew what to expect, but man, seeing it in real time, that was something else. That was quite a ride.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have a rundown to the precise second of when things are supposed to happen from a news perspective. And I have to tell you, it went as planned, even to the second as to when the splashdown happened. Obviously, no surprise to you, right?
No, because the thing you have to remember there is if it doesn't go per that timeline, then they've had a big problem, right? But no, these things are calculated down to the second. They know exactly how it's going to behave if everything's working correctly. And in this case, it clearly was. I mean, there were just some tiny minor hiccups along the way that had no bearing on the entry and landing. And they really aced it. Very impressive performance by these people, considering nobody's come back from the moon in a half century. And they nailed it.
You know, the impact is strong, but it's controlled. But what does it feel like? What did they experience at splashdown?
Well, you know, obviously they're experiencing some additional gravitational forces, so they're being pushed down in their seats with nearly 4 times the normal force of gravity as the vehicle is decelerating very sharply up in the upper atmosphere. And then, of course, hitting the water, I mean, that's a bit of a jarring impact, but I mean, the seats are padded. I think that was no big deal. They were expecting it. So I think all that was fairly normal. You know, when you see those Soyuz capsules come back from the space station, the Russian capsules, they come down on land, and that really is a jarring impact. So I think all in all, this was easier on the crew than that, and I'm sure an incredibly welcome sight to them. You know, given all the concern before entry about the heat shield, you know, and all of that, the heat shield obviously worked.
Bill, I like how you put it. They aced it. Bill Harwood. Bill, thank you so much. Let's get to retired Lieutenant Colonel Dave Mahan. He is the former commander of the U.S. Air Force's 1st Air Force Detachment 3, which is responsible for planning and rescue and recovery of the astronauts. Wow. Lieutenant Colonel, now that they've done splashdown, what comes next? Walk us through the process.
So that was an absolutely amazing event. I know everybody's really excited with everything and the fact that the crew is down safely. So now this is where the work begins for the recovery. So as you've probably seen, the spacecraft is down, small boats are approaching, and really what they're going to be doing now is setting up the vehicle so that they can extract the astronauts safely, make sure that they're good, and then helos are going to fly in and hoist them up and then fly them to the ship to get them to the med bay.
I can only imagine, yeah, so sorry, I can only imagine what they're thinking or going through when they're in there right now. Any idea?
I'm sure they're relieved and excited and happy to be home and ready to get with their families.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the preparation and practice that's gone into this rescue and recovery of the crew and capsule. What goes into it?
So this has been a process, a joint effort between NASA, the Navy, the Air Force, U.S. Space Command. This has been going on since URT-1 was in 2017, but even before that, they've been practicing and figuring out how they can safely extract the crew, how to make sure that everything is recovered appropriately, and then make sure that the vehicle is recovered for all the science and things that go along with that. So this has been going on for well over a decade. And the list of the amount of teams that are involved in this, both on the NASA side, the contract side, and the military side, it's a very long list.
Yeah, to us, we think, oh, the splashdown was the grand finale, but really it's getting them out, and then it's the recovery and making sure they're healthy, and then to their families as well. Can you also talk about the hydration? I know I'd heard something about the fact that they need to be hydrated when they're back on Earth.
So that a little bit out of my area of expertise, but I do know that from the medical side, I've heard discussions with them talking about that is something, just because the difference between how the body reacts in in zero G versus gravity and things like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about backup plans, obviously, for different situations. Bill Harwood had said that there were some hiccups. Obviously, we weren't able to notice that, but what are some of the backup plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So rescue is one of those things it's good to have, but you never want to actually use it.
Right.
And that's another side of this mission that has been behind the scenes from the beginning. So what the coverage didn't see was there was actually rescue forces that were postured in Hawaii with pararescuemen and C-17s and equipment and things like that that were on call and ready to go to be flown and then to rescue the crew if for some reason something happened. And they weren't needed, but they were always there just in case.
Can you talk to the reason as to why San Diego was the spot? And I know one of the factors is the weather, but it's beyond that too. It happens to be with the military personnel, correct?
So there is a lot of Navy support that's out of San Diego, and the Navy has a long history. It's been supporting NASA all the way back to Mercury and Gemini and things like that. And the type of recovery that was done today was something that could only be done by the U.S. Navy.
There's a point in time when there was no communication at some point, a blackout, if you will. I always find that unsettling, but what goes through your mind when that happens, when they don't have the communication and then they will circle around and certainly have the communication?
Absolutely. So that's one of those times where it goes back to trust and the expertise and the professionalism of all of the teams that have been involved in this. There is that trust, but I think everyone probably kind of holds their breath during that point. I know during the Artemis I mission, I was lucky enough to be out there, and even though it was unmanned, there was a lot of breath holding. And you know, when they got data back from that, it was exciting. And then just being, it was gave me chills when you hear the first communications with the crew when they got out of the blackout period today. So yeah, it is a little nerve-wracking, but you trust the professionals that designed everything.
And why is that blackout period, might I ask?
So the way it was explained to me from a physics perspective is the plasma builds up from the reentry, gets extremely hot, and then it just blocks out all communication. So as they're screaming in 5,000 degrees, slowing down, it just blocks out communication. For this mission was about 6 minutes.
I knew you'd have the answer. You'd answer it better than me. Lieutenant Colonel David Mahan, stick around. We'll talk with you in just a bit. Thanks so much. Now I want to go live to Deputy Director of NASA's Flight Operations Directorate, Dr. Kjell Lindgren. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about the splashdown. With your own eyes, how did it go?
Picture perfect. You know, we started out with an amazing launch 10 days ago, an emotional trip around the backside of the moon, and we have landed perfectly. And a beautiful day with great sea state and beautiful weather. And so excited to see this crew get out of the capsule here soon.
At what point did you breathe a sigh of relief? Was it at splashdown? Was it when the communications were back? Where did you say, okay, we got this?
You know, there are a number of sighs of relief as the crew is coming home. With this mission, with the missions that we have coming home from the International Space Station, you know, there are a number of things that have to go right. And so regaining contact with the crew, watching the drogue chutes come out, the main parachutes come out, and watching the spacecraft land on the water safely. These are all great steps. You know, we're still working. The operations are still underway. We need to get the crew out of the spacecraft into the helicopters and then back onto the Navy's Myrtha before we really fully breathe a sigh of relief. But we've made it through past the hard parts.
Yeah, to your point, the mission isn't accomplished until they are reunited with their families. I think that's when you can breathe that formal sigh of relief. But if you can take a look at what's happening right now, what's happening with the rescue effort, and where do things stand?
Yeah, so you can see the spacecraft floating there. We've got the flotation devices on there. If the spacecraft had pitched over or gone upside down because of the wave state, all of those bags are there to keep the spacecraft upright. And now you can see right after landing, you saw the fast boats approach. Now we've got a crew out there. They're going to be rigging the spacecraft to help put out essentially an inflatable porch so that we can get the crew out of the capsule and get them prepared to be hauled up into the partner helicopters.
What is that physical feeling for them as that happens when they are re-entering onto Earth, breathing our air?
You know, yeah, it is amazing. We've been so used to, when you've been in weightlessness, you've been in that microgravity environment and used to floating, your body has adjusted to being in that environment, and now you're being re-exposed to gravity, and not just one G, but multiple Gs, multiple forces of gravity as the spacecraft and you decelerate to, in this case, decrease the speed from 25,000 miles per hour to 0. And so they experienced about 4 Gs, 4 times their body weight. They're oriented in the capsule in such a way that they feel that against their chest. And so it makes it a little bit difficult to breathe, but we have they have gone through centrifuge training to be adapted to that, and then that only lasts for a brief period of time, and then it's just monitoring and making sure that the drogue chutes and the parachutes are coming out on time, and then when you land, it's a pretty good bump into the water. And on my first trip, I landed on land. My second mission, I landed in water, and so they definitely, I liken it to a log plume ride where you really feel like you dip into the water and then you get buoyed back up. And again, you're monitoring the spacecraft to make sure all of the appropriate things are happening. The main parachutes are being disconnected, the upright flotation system is operating, and all of those just give you confidence that things are working according to plan.
Yeah. Dr. Lindgren, as you're talking, we're actually looking at these live pictures right now, waiting for the hatch to open. I know that medics are going to arrive. Can you talk about the sequence of things? Is it going to happen pretty swiftly, or do they still need to make sure that everything's going to be precise to get them out?
So they're taking their time right now because there are fuels that are used for the spacecraft when it returns to control its attitude, and those fuels can be harmful to breathe. And so right now they're monitoring to make sure that the spacecraft is safe to approach for the divers and personnel to be able to come close. And once that environment has been deemed safe, then they'll start to rig the boat with straps so they can control it, and again to put that inflatable platform out there. So, you know, we would love to get the crew out very quickly, but we're going to be, this team is going to be very precise and intentional and take the time they need to make sure that we are able to get the crew out safely. So I think that we've still got some time to get the crew out and ultimately get them back to the ship.
Yeah, I might add, weather and ocean conditions are carefully chosen beforehand, and boy, what a picture-perfect day. Can I ask you, where were you watching the splashdown?
So I had the privilege of watching splashdown from the viewing gallery behind the control room that was taking care of this flight. Mm-hmm. So I was there with family and friends. These are old friends of mine. Two of my classmates are on this mission. Commander Reed Weissman and Mission Specialist Jeremy Hansen, and then Christina and Victor Glover are very close friends as well. And so, such a privilege to be able to be there to support the family, and then to be there to watch this absolutely historic and picture-perfect landing.
They were your classmates, and you were with their family. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. So we have a special place for family and the crew's guests to be able to sit and watch the
oh my
landing
goodness.
and splashdown.
What was that like for them?
Speaking of my own missions and what my family went through, it is it's definitely tense.
Yes.
But there's a lot of trust in the NASA and our international partner workforce that put these missions together. And so, but of course, these missions are not without risk, and we do our very best to mitigate those risks and ensure the safety of the crew and the spacecraft to accomplish the mission. And so, but there's definitely tension as you're there watching, and we're so grateful to have this crew home safely, and so proud of this team that has worked on this mission, on building this spacecraft over decades and the launch system over decades. And then this team, the mission control, the engineering, the health, the safety, all of those teams that have come together to ultimately support this crew and this mission control team to get this crew home safely.
Yeah. and now know the meaning. Mission accomplished, and this is what happened here. Dr. Kjell Lindgren, thank you so much. I now want to go to Derek Pitts, Chief Astronomer at the Franklin Institute. We've got you there. Hello. What was your reaction to the splashdown? Boy, we're all just having our own kind of moment in this. And from the newsroom perspective, we were just flabbergasted at the timing and the precision. What were your thoughts?
You know, you took the words right out of my mouth. It was the timing and the precision that really got me about this. And it makes me realize, and, you know, in thinking about the whole mission altogether, that every step of this was calculated by engineers so that it was known precisely when every portion of the mission was going to happen. So as we looked at the reentry that happened just like clockwork, right on time, right down to the second, I have nothing but admiration for the engineering teams that could calculate all this stuff out with such precision.
You know, as we're talking to you, I can't help but notice all of the live video that we're seeing right now. It looks like medics are getting closer and closer to the hatch, possibly opening it. Are you able to see that in real time as well?
I can see that, but the first thing that's going to happen is that they're going to put out the inflatable sort of raft that's called the front porch. That's an area where the astronauts can step out of the capsule and have a place to assemble, to move around, to get their land legs back under them again, if you will, before they get picked off by the helicopters for the trip back to the USS Mertha.
Okay, so it's a process. So at some point, I can't put you on the spot to ask you the time frame, but in the next few minutes, we're probably going to see them coming out, correct?
You know, the way I would characterize this is that you're right. This is a process, and the process includes not just safing the area, but also setting out the front porch. And then there's the process actually of opening the cabin, and that takes a little bit too. And I would describe it as deliberate. The ways in which the teams work to get these things done, because there's an exact procedure for how it's supposed to be done. They will actually go by the procedure that they've memorized it. Several of the crew will be checking to make sure that the procedure is followed step by step. And that procedure is there for a specific reason. And the specific reason is to make sure that the extraction is done with the greatest amount of safety possible, so that no harm comes to the astronauts as they're exiting the craft. So they're going to go through this step by step by step. I think we should just sit back with a bag of popcorn now and just watch the process for the next 30 to 45 minutes, because it's going to take a little while for all this to proceed. And actually, now that they're back on the ground, they aren't really back on the water. There's really no hurry, so they'll do things right.
Boy, I wonder what their first meal will be as you talk about popcorn. As you're there and we're talking with you, let's listen in to NASA Mission Control and just hear what they're saying right now. They've been kind of giving a play-by-play as well. Let's see if they have some new updates. Okay, so I think we're going to wait to hear more directives from them. We'll circle right back with you. Thank you so much. I want to go to Carter Evans now to find out what's happening there. Carter, can you hear me? And you could tell us what's happening at your location.
Right, so I've been following along with Mission Control, and what they've been trying to do over the last 15 or 20 minutes is establish a different communication link with the crew inside the capsule, and this is via a satellite cell phone, essentially. And they did do that. It took a little while to establish that communication. They have established it, and then they began the shutdown procedures for the capsule. They want to power everything down before the hatch is open, and I think you'll know when we're getting really close when you see that raft deployed, the front porch. That is the main signal that they are about to open that hatch and bring these astronauts out and eventually get them back here to home and on solid ground, if you will. And I can't imagine what it is like for them inside that capsule right now, the anticipation that they must be feeling floating there and also experiencing gravity again as they wait for this extraction to occur. And think back and reflect on what has happened and what the monumental achievements have occurred by this crew over the last 10 days.
Absolutely. You know, we were wondering, okay, well, who's going to walk out first and when does that happen? And how are they feeling? Are we able to hear any kind of communication? I assume that Mission Control is able to talk to the astronauts, but we haven't been able to hear from them right now, correct?
Right. So Mission Control has been talking to the astronauts initially via their comms devices, but now via the satellite phone. And now control of the mission has gone over to the recovery team that is out here about 50 miles off the coast of San Diego. So they are now in charge of the mission at this point. And again, as we've heard from some of our commentators, the approach was slow, because there can be some dangerous gases released from this capsule after it splashes down, so they want to make sure all of that dissipates. You saw them with the small boat. They were around the capsule testing the air. I heard that the air had tested clean, so all systems are go, if you will, for that. They've now initiated the power down procedure, so once that is confirmed that everything is powered down, you should see them install that raft. You'll see those Navy divers open the hatch, follow that very specific procedure, and then those divers, my understanding is they'll actually go inside the capsule and evaluate the astronauts before they bring them back. But the good news is we already know what their condition is, and it's great. And that's reported from the astronauts themselves when they communicated with them via cell phone.
Yeah, and Carter, it is quite something to watch because it does look like the medics are very close to the hatch, as if they're trying to open it, or they will. So we're kind of all waiting on pins and needles just to see this. And who knows, it may take a while, but it is
they're probably
fascinating.
Attaching that raft.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
I think they're
for the
attaching
reentry.
that raft right now. That's probably what's going to happen because they need a stable surface before they open this hatch. And so that is going to be really the big sign here that things are going to happen. And we're not going to miss that one when it happens. But it is the closest that they've been to this capsule. They've got hands on it right now. It is safe. And it is just really a matter of minutes now, probably, before we see these astronauts for the first time since their return back here to Earth.
Yeah, no need to rush it. Just make sure all things go as planned. Let's listen in, Carter, while I have you. Let's listen into NASA Mission Control.
Just want to make sure that they're feeling good. And whenever they're ready to take their step out of Orion and onto that large raft, the front porch, folks will be ready. And as there are mission audio loops in Mission Control in Houston, there is a mission audio loop here on the ship, and it was just reported out that the side hatch is open. Side hatch of Integrity is open. You're getting these beautiful shots from our aerial assets. The ship itself, where I'm on, just 3,000 yards away. Again, plenty of people on the boat here, glued to the side closest to where they can see all this action. And again, with just 3,000 yards separating us, great views from the bow here. You can see now that side hatch is open. One of the Navy personnel is about to get inside there. In they go. In total, 4 will go into Orion. So it'll be a little bit of a tight squeeze, but the goal is to have a recovery personnel with each astronaut assessing them. Boats getting closer now. Again, that one that's right up against Orion, those are the divers that will go in to the spacecraft to check on each of the astronauts. these other boats will begin doing a number of things, putting on that stabilization collar onto Orion, building that front porch. Eventually, they will retrieve the parachutes.
You're listening to NASA Mission Control there as they're going to open the hatch and go in. Medics checking on the astronauts. Let's get to CBS News senior national correspondent Mark Strassman, who is at Johnson Space Center, home of Mission Control. So, Mark, as we're watching this, walk us through what is happening.
Well, as Carter said, the good news is that they've put that inflatable raft now in front of the open hatch, the inflatable raft known as the front porch, which is essentially a staging area where they can bring out the astronauts, pull them out, get the harnesses on them, and then lift them to helicopters to take them to the recovery ship that's a couple of miles away. This is all a very rehearsed, choreographed process. In other words, even the order of the astronauts coming out is known in advance. For instance, Christina Cook will be first, and then Victor Glover will be second, Jeremy Hansen will be third, and then Commander Reed Wiseman will be fourth. And they'll all come out in that order, and then again, they'll be taken for the next step in the process, which essentially is, let's get these folks medically checked out, make sure they're in good condition, and then let's get them to San Diego and on their way home to Houston. By tomorrow, they will be back with their families, probably answering a million questions. And that is sort of amazing when you think about it. I mean, just 4 days ago, they were 250,000 miles away from us, and here they are back on Earth, safe and sound, a picture-perfect splashdown to match a picture-perfect launch.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine what they're talking about there. And as you said, it is precision, so it makes sense that they would also know the order of who's going to get out first as well. Mark, this is just spectacular from start to finish, but I know the job isn't over yet. There's a lot ahead for the astronauts, and mainly their health, correct?
Yeah, well, they want to make sure, NASA wants to make sure that everybody's in good condition and that they went through the rigors of 9 days in deep space and came back on the other side just fine. And from what Reed Wiseman suggested when he radioed into Mission Control, all the astronauts are in good shape. At least they believe that they're in good shape. But of course, you want a medical professional checking them out just to double check, make sure there's nothing that they couldn't see on their own that a professional might be able to spot. But you have to think that this mission, from NASA's standpoint, was a home run. I mean, everything went according to plan, at least all the major things. I mean, they had a problem with a pesky toilet. Okay, that was irritating, I'm sure, to the crew in stretches, but they're used to hardships, right? I mean, if you're not, this was like, as my friend Bill Harwood said, this was like a 9-day deep space camping expedition, and now they've folded the tent and they've come back home again. And from NASA's standpoint, when the astronauts came back safe and sound, then they're ready to call this a home run, because without the astronauts back safely in the water now, and I can still look at the live pictures there, and they're still in the capsule, but they're safe and sound and they're alive, and NASA has to be thrilled with how this test flight went.
Yeah, absolutely. And from all of their interviews while they were in space, I can only imagine what they're going to be like maybe come tomorrow when we get to talk to them on Earth. Mark Strassman. Mark, thank you so much. All right, retired Lieutenant Colonel Dave Mahan standing by. He's the former commander of the U.S. Air Force's 1st Air Force Detachment 3, responsible for planning and rescue and recovery of astronauts. So, Lieutenant Colonel, what is next here as we're watching this, and what happens next?
So, like was mentioned before, right now the Navy divers are inside the vehicle. They're checking out the astronauts to make sure that they're good to actually be extracted from the spacecraft. And then they're also getting ready to set up what was referred to as the front porch, which is the staging area to get the crew out. And then from there, once they get them on there and everybody's good to go, they're going to actually pull the front porch away from the capsule. And that's when the Navy helicopters are going to actually come in and start extracting the crew to take them to the ship to get medically checked out.
I'm trying to figure the most exciting points as a civilian, as a viewer. It would be the splashdown and then seeing them coming out of the hatch. How about for you?
Yeah, I would agree. Seeing the crew, basically validating that everything went well and seeing everybody safe and sound is great. And then I would say once they're on the deck, walking down the ramp to the med bay, once they're back on as solid land as they can get for right now, and then getting them airborne and headed towards their family, because I know they're ready to go home and see their families and talk about the amazing experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the preparation and practice that goes into this rescue and recovery. They have practiced this over and over and over again, right?
They have, absolutely. So there's been 12 underway recovery tests that were actually labeled as underway recovery tests, and every single one of those is where they developed the procedures and the tactics on how they were going to do this, and there was multiple changes, multiple lessons learned, and everything that you're seeing today is a culmination of all the way back to 2017 and then some testing before that in preparation specifically to bring the vehicle and the astronauts home safe after Artemis II.
Now, I know that there are boats and helicopters securing the capsule so they can be transported back to land. But what are some of the challenges right now that they may face to make sure that they get out successfully and that they're okay?
So I think the biggest thing right now is obviously it's tight quarters. There's a lot of people working around the vehicle. And then it's just a dynamic environment because it is, the wave state is good today. It could obviously be worse for sure. But it is still moving and there's a lot of heavy equipment that they're working around and things like that. So really that's when the procedures and the training come in and everything that everybody's done to prep for this, and they're moving as quickly and efficiently, but most importantly safely as they extract the crew.
Yeah, what about the brief exposure to fuel vapors also?
So that was one of the things that they checked with the crew and then with the engineers, and then also the Navy divers as they approached the vehicle probably saw the wands that they were putting around the vehicle, and that was really to sniff out to find out if there was any leaks of hydrogen or anything that was dangerous, and that all came back negative, and that was why they were able to approach the vehicle and start doing what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I know that the capsule is designed to float upright, but I believe the older ones actually could land sideways, if you will. But this was a perfect landing, right? Would you call it? I mean, upright and just the precision that they expected.
It absolutely was. It was a perfect landing. The inflatable things that you see, the orange balls that are on top of the vehicle, those are referred to as CMIS bags, and those are specifically designed that this vehicle could land on its side or upside down, and those are the devices that would inflate and actually flip the capsule back right side up. They inflate anyway, but in this particular case, the vehicle landed perfectly and they weren't needed, but they were there just in case.
Can you talk again about the splashdown, what that feeling is like for them? It's much different than a ground landing, correct? And you kind of go under the water and back up, and it's not like a crash, but it's a jolt.
So one of the astronauts that was a guest here described it as going down a log ride. To where you go down fast and then you kind of submerge a little bit longer, deeper than you were expected, and then you pop back up. I've personally never experienced it, but that's the way it was described as a log ride at Disneyland.
And then some. All right, Lieutenant Colonel David. Yeah, and then some. Lieutenant David Mahan, stick around. We'll certainly talk with you in just a bit. Thank you so much. You know, the families of the astronauts, they are waiting to be reunited with their loved ones. And joining us now is Kristen Fisher, the daughter of 2 former NASA astronauts and founder of Endless Void Studios. Kristen, thank you so much for joining us. We talked to you while they were in space, and now they did the splashdown. What is it like for the families?
I think every astronaut and every member of this Artemis II crew would agree that this mission is always was going to be the hardest on the families, the ones that are left behind back on Earth. And, you know, it's not just the nerves that they have to deal with at launch and during the loss of communications around the far side of the moon, and just right now during those 6 minutes as we waited for them to reemerge out of that comms blackout. It's not just those nerves, it's the planning too. I mean, think about it. You don't know if this is going to launch in February, March, or finally it launched in April. They've been assigned as a crew for more than 3 years. Their entire lives have in some form or fashion been put on hold because you're not going to do anything else when your dad or your husband or your wife is flying to the moon, right? Yeah. So it's a huge sigh of relief for these families. First and foremost, that their loved ones are back on planet Earth safe and sound, but also because it's really the end of a long chapter. And while it's exciting, it's hard too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you grew up around the space community. You were just yay high when all of this started. This is your world, really. I can only imagine it is still exciting to this day anytime there's a launch and there's a splashdown.
Yeah, and this splashdown in particular hits different, right? I mean, this one feels truly like what I've been waiting for my whole life. It really feels like the dawn of a new era in human spaceflight. You know, you talk to so many people who were around for the Apollo program, and they experienced such sadness and almost despair that humanity has kind of languished in low Earth orbit for more than half a century. And so there was a part of me that, I don't know, was worried I was never going to see a moment like this.
Yeah.
And now that it's
Oh, it looks like we have Bill now. Bill, sorry, we were just talking to Miss Fisher, but we'll circle back with you. Bill, I know that you're watching the video right now. We'll certainly get back with her, but what's happening? Is the hatch opening yet?
The hatch is open. Medical personnel have gone inside to check on the astronauts, and we're waiting for them to put the inflatable, they call it a porch, that'll be right in front of the hatch, that the astronauts will come out of the capsule and stage there while helicopters fly over, and we'll pick them up 2 at a time, hoist them up, and carry them to the recovery ship where the medical team will give them initial evaluations. You know, I think that watching that capsule bob around, I mean, I doubt that they have any medical problems, but you don't know if anybody might be a little seasick at this point. I probably would be, but certainly haven't heard anything to indicate anything out of the ordinary. It just takes time. They're making sure they do this step by step and very safely, as Kristen well knows.
Yeah, I wonder if seasickness is the last of their concerns after all of the G-forces they experienced. Let's listen in for a second with NASA Mission Control, if we can. Okay, it sounded like they were giving some commands and maybe not, and that's just the process, just to wait until they're safely exiting. Let's see. I don't know about you, Bill, but I could keep watching this for a long, long time. It is so exciting, even though we're seeing kind of the same images. How about you?
Communicating with everyone out on the water.
Well, everybody wants to see the astronauts, okay? I mean, you want to see them come out and, you know, wave and talk to people and know that they know visually that everybody's okay. I mean, we know that, but it's still, you want to see them again. These are the people that just got back from the moon. It's kind of amazing to think about.
Within 2 hours of splashdown, plenty of time. So no concerns just yet. But as calm as the water looks, yeah, it looks like it's hindering the teams just a tad.
All right, Bill, what are we looking at right now? It looks like they have a line out there, and I know that there's some medics inside, correct? And they're checking out the conditions of the astronauts?
The side hatch still open. Again,
yeah, that's right. And you know, I think really the only thing right now going on is that it's not that the sea is rough, but you can see the capsule's bobbing around pretty good.
Divers,
you know, it just makes it a little bit more of a bother to hook the front porch up, as they call it, that inflatable raft that's going to be there for the crew to get out into. They want to get all that done as safely and stably as possible. And you know, one thing I've been thinking about watching this capsule, it looks great on the outside, what we can see of it, but of course what we haven't been able to see is the heat shield. That's still there. You know, when the Artemis I, the first Orion capsule landed, they found some fairly serious problems with that heat shield. They adjusted the trajectory for this flight, which they said should have prevented it kind of damage, but we're not going to know that until we get the capsule out of the water and get a chance to look at it. So that's one of the things that's left to look forward to, is seeing the actual condition of that heat shield. It obviously worked. The capsule made it to the ground, made it to the water very safely. The crew's in great shape, but we don't yet know if it suffered any damage at all. So that's an unknown that we're going to have to wait a while to get an answer for.
All right, Bill Harwood. Bill, thank you. Let's go to CBS News correspondent Carter Evans, live in San Diego. Carter, what can you tell us about what's happening right now?
So I've been watching the coverage very closely here, and what is supposed to happen, we've been talking a lot about the front porch, but even before that, they're supposed to install what's called a stabilizing collar around the capsule, and that will keep it from rocking back and forth so much. And you take a look at the shot now, you can see Navy divers in the water, if we can bring that back up, and it seems like they're wrestling with some material there, and that is the collar. And these divers were in the water. I could see them a few minutes ago, and they were trying to pull that collar up to the capsule, and it looked like the current was very strong and they just couldn't get to the capsule. So it looks like they've decided to take another approach here. They brought back up one of those small boats. They tied it off to the capsule. It looks like they're trying to hold it stable now, and they've now got those divers back in the water, and they are wrapping that collar around the capsule. So that's going to be the first step here, to stabilize it with this collar. Then you'll see the front porch. Then you'll see the astronauts come out. So it's a very methodical process. They've got to follow all the procedures here. Couple of hiccups provided by nature. Looks like in the form of a pretty strong current there, but they're getting the job done as far as I can tell right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that has to be expected. Obviously, it's what, 6:15 in San Diego. There's going to be some currents at that hour, but from the looks of it, it seemed like it was a great weather day in terms of landing and conditions, and that's probably what they factored for, correct?
A beautiful day out here, and it was iffy for a little while. We have a storm system a little bit to the north, and there was concern that it could kind of bring rain and some rough weather down this way, but that has held off, and it is a Chamber of Commerce day out here in San Diego. The ocean does not appear to be too rough, so that's good, but if that were me floating and bobbing in that capsule for the last hour or so, I would definitely be seasick. So I don't know how these guys are feeling inside there right now, but if you take a look, you can see those divers in the water, and they're pulling that collar around the capsule right now. So soon you'll see them inflate that collar, and that again is going to stabilize the capsule. Once it's stabilized, that's when they'll attach that front porch to it, and we should see those astronauts disembark for the first time since their return to Earth.
Yeah, Carter Evans. Carter, we'll check back with you. Thanks so much. Let's bring back Kristen Fisher. So sorry we had to cut out the daughter of 2 former NASA astronauts, founder of Endless Void Studios. We were talking about growing up in a family of astronauts and just how special this is actually for you today. It doesn't get old.
And you know what? It did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it did. I completely took all of this for granted because, especially when you're a teenager, what your mom and dad do, especially if both of them do the same thing, it just wasn't cool. And then I, moved away from home and grew up and realized how special and unique my childhood had been. And in many ways, I think the American public has kind of gone through the same thing, right? Yeah. We all grew up with humans going to space routinely with the space shuttle, and we all kind of grew up knowing that humans had walked on the moon, and we really took space and human space exploration in particular for granted. I was a little bit jaded and pessimistic at the start of this mission because I was worried that it might not capture the public's attention in the way that it has. And it has just been such a relief, and it has brought me so much joy and hope to see so many people get so excited about this. And, Juliet, the one thing that I'm really thinking about today and throughout this mission has been the fact that now, for the first time, this really feels like we're at the era, at the beginning of a brand new era of human spaceflight, that now, instead of just leaving, flags and footprints on the moon, that now finally we have the political will, we have the backing of an incredible new NASA administrator. You've got the commercial sector that has the technical expertise and know-how to finally make these things happen. I mean, it finally feels like after all this time, humanity is going to truly extend beyond low Earth orbit, and this time to stay.
Well put. Okay, and if I may brag for you, I know you were a teen at the time and probably it was no big deal. However, in 1984, your mom, Dr. Anna Lee Fisher, made history as the first mother in space. So we must acknowledge that. Now we've had the first woman to journey to the moon. So what has it been like for you to see this progression?
Obviously, as a woman and now a mother myself, I'm incredibly proud and just in awe of my own mother, Dr. Anna Lee Fisher, and incredibly proud of Christina as she becomes the first woman to travel beyond low Earth orbit and, go into a flyby around the moon. But, I think I'm going to steal one of Christina's very own lines. She said, yes, of course, I think about the first, but I look forward to a time when there are no more firsts, when this is just normal and commonplace. And, you didn't hear her or Victor. They, of course, talked about being the first person of color and the first woman to go to the moon, but they also were cautious about not talking about it too much, I think. And they both really look forward to a time when we don't have to talk about these firsts. So I kind of find myself straddling both worlds, really in awe and proud of them, and also really looking forward to the time when we're not talking about these firsts.
Well, they are exceptional, and so is your family, and their perspective certainly doesn't surprise me. They're just doing their job, as I'm sure that they feel that they are. But boy, job well done. And honestly, we can breathe a sigh of relief seeing the splashdown, but it's going to take them being reunited with their family before we can kind of go, all right, mission accomplished, right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, can you imagine that moment after all this time and buildup? And, one of the other really neat things is that you have their families don't get to be on this recovery ship waiting for them, right? A lot of those big reunions will happen back in Houston, but you've got this huge team of people, including the NASA administrator, Jared Isaacman, waiting on this vessel for them. And when they splash down, just these huge cheers. I mean, we've spent so much time talking about this crew, but this is such a massive operation. All of these divers that we're seeing on the screen right here, I watched them train for this very moment in the neutral buoyancy lab, which is essentially a giant pool just outside on the outskirts of the Johnson Space Center. They have trained for this for hours and hours and hours. And to watch this really carefully orchestrated dance, essentially. Yeah. It's going a little slow right now, but it really is a dance. To see this all come together as perfectly planned and as well as it was intended, it's really just a testament to NASA at its finest.
Yeah, in our perfect world, we want them just to open up the hatch and say, here I am. But there's a lot that goes into it. Oh, Kristen, thank you so much. Appreciate your perspective, and we'll certainly talk with you in just a minute. But I want to get to CBS News correspondent Carter Evans live in San Diego. And Carter, I understand that you do have an update on the efforts to get them out.
I know we're all eager to see them.
Yeah.
We're all eager to see them pop out of that hatch right now. But first they need to stabilize this. And you can see that the divers appear to be struggling a little bit to get this collar around it. Essentially, it is a long tube that they're wrapping around it, and then at various points they have carabiners that they're going to attach to the spacecraft and complete the circle there, and then they'll inflate that collar. And at one point it looked like it had actually pulled under the other side of the capsule there, so you saw divers swimming underneath it, swimming around the back, yanking on the collar. It now looks like they have it pretty well around the capsule, and it looks like they're beginning to inflate it. So that's the first step here. The next step again is the front porch, but they have been struggling with this collar for the last, I would say, 30 minutes or so. But as I'm watching it on the screen right now with you, it does look like they're inflating it. It does look firmly attached to the majority of the capsule, so it does look like we're making progress here. But it's been tough for those divers. I mean, you can tell, you can see the current in the water pulling them away from the spacecraft. You can see them kicking very hard with their fins to try and stay in place. So it's been a bit of a struggle to get this all connected today.
Yeah, I imagine they practice this over and over again in all conditions, but when it comes down to it, you never know how things are going to actually unfold. But Carter, as you were just explaining to us,
it looks like porch.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us what's happening right now.
You see it? Yeah.
Yep, I do see it.
So that is the front porch. That's the raft that they are going to bring these astronauts out onto. And when they bring them out, they're going to bring them onto the raft, and then they're going to tow the raft away from the capsule before they airlift them up, and that's for safety reasons. They don't want anybody to get tangled up in the capsule when they do so. They want everybody to be clear of that. So they're going to attach this, and then we're going to very soon, I think, start to see people emerge from the capsule, and our understanding is the first astronaut to come out is going to be Christina Cook, and that is going to be a sight to see after all of this hubbub, watching them hook up these rafts and get this capsule under control. We've got the hatch open right now. We've seen little glimpses of faces inside, but what we really want to see are those astronauts, all four of them, climb out safely. And by the way, the medical officer on board that is inside the capsule with them right now has reported back to Mission Control, says everyone is healthy, all of the astronauts are green, they're ready to go and get out of that capsule.
Oh, that is the best news ever. Boy, this is the best real-life movie ever. I don't care how long this continues on. We'll keep waiting until we see them out safely. And it looks like they've got kind of the front porch, and like you said, they're going to bring all the astronauts out onto, what is that, let's see, the front porch there, and then they're going to what? Keep them there for a while, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it seems like they're trying to secure this collar a little bit more. I'm watching a couple of different shots now. There's the wide shot that you're watching on the screen right now. There is also a close-up shot that gives you kind of a better idea of what's going on. But now in the wide shot, as we circle around, you could kind of see the front porch there, and they're waiting just to bring it up to the side there. There's a diver pulling it. You can see him kind of pulling it, and they're also pushing it with the boat. And they're going to attach it to the collar there, right by the hatch, and they're getting there. They're getting real close. The collar has got that stabilized. It's firmly attached. The divers don't seem to be struggling with it anymore. So it really is just a matter of getting this front porch in place right now, and that is what you are watching. We should see them attach that to the side of the capsule any minute here, and we're just waiting to see their faces.
Oh, this is exciting. Carter Evans, best news ever. Thank you so much. Let's get to Derek Pitts now, chief astronomer at the Franklin Institute. Derek, thanks so much for joining us and being here on standby as we watch this. What are we seeing right now?
What we're seeing right now is they've finally been able to get the front porch close enough to the capsule with enough proximity that they can attach it onto the capsule and can attach it onto the stabilization collar. And once they get it all attached there, it'll help to stabilize the spacecraft from the rocking motion that we see out there on the ocean. It isn't as bad as it could be, but it certainly has been challenging to get all these different flotation collars in place and to get the front porch in place. Once they get that front porch in place, they get that secured well to the spacecraft, then they can begin the process of bringing each of the astronauts out in sequence, one after the other, and they'll be brought out onto the front porch there. Of course, the doctor's already looked at them inside the capsule, so he knows that they're in good shape. And once they get onto the front porch, they can pull the front porch away from the capsule, move it away far enough that they can begin to use the helicopters to bring the astronauts on board the helicopters for the flight back to USS John P. Murtha.
Okay, so I can only imagine they're in space, then they have the splashdown, they're in this choppy water, then they're going to get out into the fresh air. What does that do to a body physically? I mean, how are they feeling right now?
Well, I think they're elated, first of all, to be back and to be back safely. I think they're really excited to get a breath of fresh Earth air. And I think they're really excited to look around and see the planet now that they have this different perspective. For their bodies, it's reacclimating to the 1G environment. And in addition to that, they also want to regain their balance now that they're back in 1G. And the time that has passed since the time they actually re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, landed on the water surface, and now has all been acclimation time that they can make use of. Now, as we're looking at the front porch, we can see that there are quite a number of Navy workers on the front porch there. So now it looks like things are really well stabilized. And pretty soon, I think we'll begin to see astronauts coming out of the capsule and onto the porch.
Yeah, that hatch door is open. Let's listen in for a bit.
The Air Rescue Vest, ARV. And so this is the harness that each crew member will get into in order to be hoisted into the helicopters. Again, those helicopters hovering just about 40 feet above the front porch when they're ready to pick up each crew member.
This is Mission Control Houston. Behind me, a fairly raucous scene as hundreds of flight controllers have poured into the flight control room here. This is reminiscent of the scene after the final shuttle mission of STS-135, although that was the end of a program. This is only the beginning of a program with the textbook splashdown of Integrity and its 4 astronauts. We're standing by for the crew to be extracted from the spacecraft. Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling invited all of these flight controllers who have contributed to this mission to enter the flight control room to have an opportunity to receive well wishes and to share the mutual glow that exists in the wake of a textbook mission for Integrity. On the front screen here in Mission Control, a sign that says "Welcome home, Integrity, taking humanity back to the moon, going further, and returning safely to Earth." So all of that jubilation, part of the post-splashdown activities, even as we await the crew being extracted from the vehicle to be hoisted onto Navy helicopters for the trip back to the USS John P. Murtha.
All right, you're looking at live pictures now as the astronauts will start to emerge from the capsule, and obviously some choppy water, so it's taken some time, but it's all about precision, as you saw with the mission and the splashdown, and now securing the capsule and making sure that they're able to get out safely. There are medics inside right now making sure that the astronauts are healthy, and as Carter Evans was reporting, they did give the all clear to Mission Control that they are doing just fine. So it's a matter of time before we're going to see them step outside. You can see the yellow hatch door, I believe, is open, and medics are in there checking them out. But it's not a process they're going to rush by any means. All right, let's take a look at Mission Control.
Known as the White Flight Control Room. This is the old shuttle flight control room, and now is the home of Artemis missions to the moon and beyond. Once again, quite a few flight controllers were invited in by Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling to share in the jubilation following the successful splashdown of Integrity. That splashdown occurring an hour and 22 minutes ago, as we stand by for the completion of the extraction of the crew, and ultimately they're hoisting onto Navy helicopters for a short flight back to the USS John P. Murtha. Splashdown occurred at 7:07 and 27 seconds p.m. Central Time. I had an opportunity to talk to the head of Flight Dynamics, Jeff Birch, a moment or two ago. He said the trajectory of Integrity coming through the Earth's atmosphere was so precise, they've never seen anything line up on a ground track like today's entry by Integrity for its splashdown southwest of San Diego.
All right, looking at live pictures now. This is obviously very exciting. Just waiting to see the astronauts emerge. And retired Lieutenant Colonel Dave Mahan is standing by now, former commander of the U.S. Air Force's 1st Air Force Detachment 3, which is responsible for the planning and rescue and recovery of astronauts. Obviously, these things take time for a reason. What can you tell us is going on right now?
So like former correspondent was talking about, so they've done the collar, they've done the front porch, and I would expect to see the crew coming out at any moment. They do have to work harnesses so that the helicopters can hoist them up there. So right now it's really just getting everything set up so that when it's time and the helicopters are there, they can get them off as quickly as possible.
All right, let's listen in. I believe the astronauts may be coming out. All right, we're going to keep listening into NASA Mission Control as we're waiting for the astronauts Christina Cook, Victor Glover, Jeremy Hansen, and Commander Weissman.
We are expecting the other crew members momentarily to be extracted.
All right, it's one of those moments where it's wait and see, but we will continue waiting to see this historic event right now. As you can see, they have all of the medics and the crew waiting.
Out.
2 crew members just out, if you can zoom in and see, and we'll listen in more from Mission Control. so the audio does keep cutting in and out. But Lieutenant, if you're there by chance, can you tell me what's happening as they're leaving the capsule now?
So as they're leaving the capsule, they're being assisted by the Navy divers. Just obviously space travel has effects on the body, so they're making sure that they're stable and that they're escorting them to a place in the front porch where they can sit them down, do last minute checks, make sure that they're prepared to be taken up into the helicopter and hoisted off of the front porch to be taken to the Mertha.
I mean, I can only imagine what their body has experienced from space to the splashdown to now breathing fresh air to then being hoisted into a helicopter. These are hardy astronauts that they've trained for. They know that this is what's going to happen, so it's no surprise to them. But boy, this is quite a haul on a body.
It absolutely is, yeah.
What is it like when they first take their first step out to fresh air? That must be amazing.
It must absolutely be amazing, and I know that everybody there is specifically there for their safety, but I'm sure if the cameras could zoom in, there's a lot of smiling faces on that raft.
Yeah, and I believe that we have crew member number 3 out, so there's just one more to go. We'll have all 4 astronauts out of the capsule and then ready to be checked over again before being hoisted up into the helicopter. And Lieutenant, I know that the final to all of this is that they are reunited with their family as they've been watching from afar, just like we have, of this successful mission.
I'm sure the families are extremely excited and ready to see their loved ones.
Lieutenant Colonel David Mann, thank you so much. And joining me now, Derek Pitts, Chief Astronomer at the Franklin Institute. Derek, thanks for always standing by. Okay, tell us what's happening right now. We have 3 out of the 4 astronauts, I believe, out of the capsule.
3 out of the capsule, 1 more to come out. And
one more to go.
Once they get that 1 more done, they'll be able to do medical checks again, just to check and make sure everything's good for a helicopter flight now back to the USS John P. Murtha. We can see the helicopters circling around. In fact, our camera view is on board one of these helicopters as it's circling around. But it seems as if everything is going according to plan. They have plenty of personnel on board that front porch deck that you see there, and it looks very stable. That mass has also helped to stabilize the Orion spacecraft itself. So they're coming out, they get to take a breath of fresh air, stretch a little bit actually also after being inside the capsule for 9 days. And the next things they'll be doing is moving the front porch away from the capsule, getting it at a good safe distance away so they can bring in the helicopters to pick the astronauts 1 by 1 up from the front porch to head back to the Murtha.
I believe we have all the astronauts out. Let's listen in.
Once again, all 4 crew members now on the front porch, and the procedure to begin hoisting them up to these 2 Navy helicopters hovering overhead will begin shortly.
Derek Pitts, thank you so much. CBS News correspondent Carter Evans live in San Diego. Carter, all 4 astronauts are now out on the front porch, as you've been saying. Tell us what else you're seeing.
What a relief to see them, I think, at this point. This is the shot we've all been waiting for. Everybody looks good. Everybody looks healthy. We saw them crawl across the front porch there and sit down with seemingly no trouble. So the next thing we're going to see here is they're going to disconnect that front porch, and then they're going to tow it away from the capsule and then pluck those astronauts 1 by 1. There are 4 helicopters circling overhead right now, 2 simply for surveillance, probably providing the shots that we're seeing right now. And there are 2 more that are going to rotate, taking these crew members off of the front porch. Once they pull it away from the capsule, they'll remove them from it 1 by 1 and bring them over to the USS John P. Murtha. Well, they'll be checked out in the medical bay there. They're going to continue doing some tests on them. They're going to take their blood pressure, get their vitals. They're going to be doing blood tests, saliva tests. They're going to be doing cognitive functioning tests, all sorts of things to make sure that they're okay after coming back from this zero gravity environment for the last 9 or 10 days or so. And then what's going to happen is really up to the astronauts. They can stay on the ship tonight if they want. If they're not feeling up to it, they can go ahead and sleep there. What is more likely going to happen is once they clear medical on board the ship, is that they're going to be flown back via helicopter here to San Diego, to North Island Naval Station, where they'll undergo even more medical checks. And then they'll have the choice. They could perhaps fly back to Houston tonight. That is a possibility, but it is more likely they'll end up staying here in San Diego for the night at a hotel. They'll wake up in the morning, they'll undergo some more medical procedures, and then they'll fly back to Houston.
Carter, this is so fun looking at the aerial pictures in real time of the astronauts. I'm trying to pick like who's who, and are they smiling, are they laughing, are they high-fiving? Whatever they're doing, they are back home safe. And, you know, this crew had a lot of personality in space with just all of their interviews and their conversations. I have a feeling that they're going to be a lot of fun when it comes to post interviews as well. How about you?
Yeah, it seemed like they were having a lot of fun up there, and they're going to have a lot to say about their experience and, of course, their perspective, too. Imagine how your perspective must change when you're that far away from Earth, looking back and watching the Earth rise from behind the moon and the sun shine on the shores that you're familiar with from the ground but have never seen from that perspective before. Imagine what it's like being back on Earth, having seen that with your own eyes. I think that that's a pretty intense moment, something that they're probably going to remember for the rest of their lives, and it's going to be interesting to hear what their reactions are as soon as we're able to talk to them. Probably, at least, I know there are some crews, NASA video crews aboard the ship, so hopefully we'll get to hear from them as soon as they get back to the ship.
Yeah, that was very poetic, what you just said, though. Carter Evans. Carter, thank you so much. Okay, CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood is at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Okay, what are we looking at right now? We've got all four on the front porch. New respect for a front porch.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and as Carter has been telling us, you know, it took them a little while to get this thing all set up and lashed together, get the spacecraft stabilized in the water. I mean, it looks like a beautiful day, but if you were watching that capsule bob around a little bit, I don't know if I wouldn't be a little seasick if I was sitting in there. But the medics are reporting all four are in good shape. You can see them. They're wearing their bright orange pressure suits. Those are the suits they launched in. They put those back on to land in. And I know one of the first things they want to do when they get back to the ship is get out of those suits and into regular street clothes. And you know, I don't think the medical exams they're going to be doing is all that more serious than shuttle crews would experience. I mean, you know, they haven't been in space for 6 months like a space station crew, where they have to do all sorts of medical tests and reconditioning and that sort of thing. So I think that part will be pretty quick. But I also think Carter's dead on. They want to see their families, I know, and their friends and all the people back at Mission Control that helped make this mission possible. You know, in those scenes we've seen of Mission Control, they invited in all these flight directors, you know, who weren't on duty to celebrate the moment. It really is a moving moment for those people at NASA that have been working for years to make this mission happen. And I know the astronauts can't wait to get back and say hello and offer their thanks for such a successful mission.
Absolutely. And Bill, that was helpful to be able to zoom in and see that the orange and know that they're all seated together one by one. Thank you so much for your insight. Let's go to CBS News reporter Jared Ochacher live in San Diego. Jared, you're with all of the folks that are just able to see this in real time. How's everyone reacting?
So I was at the Fleet Space Science Center here in San Diego with over 1,000 people, both kids and adults who were watching this happen. What was really cool, though, is that today, whether you were a kid or an adult, your inner child really came out. And what was also really cool is that what people were telling me is that what they were seeing on the screen, it was happening less than 100 miles away from where we are right now. And so I've been standing outside of this science center asking people as they come out, what is one word to describe to me what you just saw today? And I want to read you some of those right now. I got amazing, awesome, historic, inspiring. But the one that I found most interesting was harmony. And I want to read the quote from the woman who said harmony to me. She said, because for the first time in a very long time, everybody, no matter what we agree on or disagree on, has come together. Juliet.
I love that. You know, everyone's going to have their own viewpoint, but collectively, I think we're all in awe. And Jared, we were able to listen to NASA control as the splashdown was happening, and I kept hearing the word from them, precision. And so that's spot on when you have them saying precision, and that's just exactly what we're seeing here. You know, and so there's some choppy waters. That's okay though, right?
It's okay. It's okay. That's what those boats are made to do.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about precision, people here were clapping, cheering, kids were yelling, but they also didn't really know what they were looking at because everything went off so perfectly. I asked one kid as he was coming out, what was this like for you? He said, boring. You know, it just went off so perfectly, as you said.
It did. It's so exciting. And you know, who am I to say the choppy waters? I mean, they're in it, so it's not that fun, likely. But think about that. They've been to space. They've done a splashdown. They've landed in choppy waters. Then they're going to be hoisted into a helicopter. Their bodies are hardy. Hats off to them. And then also, you know, assimilating back onto Earth and what they have to kind of go through, right?
Right. I mean, you were saying the water's choppy. They were just going thousands of miles an hour through space. I think that this is nothing for them. I think they're really okay with this. They're probably happy just to be back on Earth.
I know. I can't help but wonder, like, what would their first meal be, or what do they want to do when they get home? What is that first thing? And I'm sure they were so personable in space, and I know that you saw that too. That I know that they'll give us some pretty good interviews post landing, right?
Oh, I'm sure they will. You have me thinking about what I want to eat right now. I'm in California, as you know. I rarely come here. I'm thinking about In-N-Out Burger. So maybe that's what they're on their mind as well. Who knows?
Oh, Jared, you're so much fun. All right, we'll check back with you. Thanks so much. Hey, let's listen into Mission Control right now with all the astronauts now out of the capsule. Let's listen in.
You know, that stacked the vehicle in Florida, that integrated the vehicle in Denver, that fired the engines in Stennis, that fired the boosters in Promontory. I mean, this is the entire team, you know, coming together and being tested by the environment that this machine went through, and they did it right. The work was good. They did it right.
You've said in a number of briefings, of course, and in other forums that this is just the first step. The cadence has to step up, as the administrator has indicated. Now, it's a little early for the full report card on how Integrity did, but did this mission ultimately, from your eyes view, exceed expectations?
It absolutely did. I mean, I was waiting to talk about this until we were in the water, and, you know, I think we still have, again, work to do to bring it in and really kind of go through it bolt by bolt and see what we learned. But, I mean, so far, given what we learned during the mission and given how we performed on ascent, on entry, you know, I always think about energy in terms of the states that you worry about the most, and every time we put these machines through these incredibly energetic states, they came through. So I'm fairly confident that we made a big step tonight to get us on the path towards the surface. I think the path to the surface is open now. You know, we do have to do all the work, and we'll make sure we talk about that as cleanly as we can. We learned a few things during the mission, but I have to tell you, this was an incredible test of an incredible machine.
From an American psyche standpoint, the Empire State Building was lit up red, white, and blue tonight. Our coverage was seen on baseball stadiums around the major leagues. How captivating was this experience for the American people, for the world, in fact, as we return to the moon?
You know, I have not been able to watch a lot of the coverage as we've progressed through the mission. I will tell you, just, you know, from my witness in Florida before launch, and then seeing the people's faces here, and then, you know, reading where I can about how things are going. I think this has been a gift to the world from NASA. NASA has given the world a gift, proving to folks all over the place, especially young people, and that to me is what this is really about. Young people, when they see what we can do when we work together, when we have teams that collaborate, that, you know, it doesn't matter how hard the problems are, we can solve them. I'm hopeful that Artemis II, as folks witness what we were able to do with this incredible crew, this incredible team that we've birthed into the world, scientists and engineers and artists that have been inspired by this. And even if they don't come work in the program, which separately they should come work in the program because Lord knows we need the help, but even if they don't want to come work in the program, hopefully they grow up to recognize they can do amazing things when they work together and contribute to society and be good citizens and really change the way, you know, the challenges that are coming in the world are overcomable if we work together like this.
And one final question. You know, flying to the moon, we did it. We've done it again this past week and a half or so. But the engineering that went behind the design of this mission and the precision, the pinpoint precision of this vehicle entering that entry corridor, it's almost mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is incredible when you think about the energies involved and the uncertainties involved. That you know, when we inserted the vehicle into orbit, it was 99.2% down the middle when we dropped the vehicle right on top of the fleet here. Our guys knew exactly where to go, but the guidance was perfect. And it's interesting. I've got this question a lot over the last few weeks about, we did this before 53 years ago, and that. I think, it is a reasonable thing to contemplate, like what's gone on since then. And what I'd tell you is, when we did Apollo, which, again, the more we learn about what they did, the more magical it seems what they were able to accomplish given the technology and the learnings that they had. But when we did Apollo, the architects of Apollo, Gilbert, Seaman, von Braun.
All right, you're listening to Mission Control. Now we're going to go to CBS News senior national correspondent Mark Strassman, who is at Johnson Space Center, home of Mission Control. So, Mark, we've heard cheers of the splashdown. We've seen them now on the front porch, and now we're looking at the chopper. They're going to start hoisting the astronauts up. What happens now?
Well, this is some remarkable pictures going on right now, as you can see, happening live out in the Pacific. The crew is being hoisted one by one up to a pair of helicopters that's going to take them over to the recovery ship. They're going to come out in a very predetermined order. Christina Cook will be first, then Jeremy Hansen, then Victor Glover, and then Reed Wiseman. So 2 helicopters pulling up one at a time and taking them over to the recovery ship, where they'll be evaluated by medical personnel for the first time, and then taken over to San Diego, where they'll be reevaluated by more medical personnel. So they take each of these astronauts, they put a hoisting harness on them, and they lift them up to the helicopter for a what I'm sure is going to be a triumphant return to be greeted by NASA officials, and then when they come here to Houston sometime tomorrow, by their families, who have to be so relieved. Just so relieved that this crew is back safe and sound.
Mark, what I'm watching is
look at those
unbelievable.
Pictures.
Right. They're being hoisted. This is Christina Cook, correct? This is unbelievable. The journey that they've been on, and then kind of the grand finale before they're reunited with their family. Let's take a listen. Wow, that is a moment, and they'll be doing this for all 4 astronauts, Mark. And obviously, they were talking about choppy waters, but I think this is nothing compared to what they've been through the last 9 days, correct?
Yeah, remember the astronauts are hardy people. They almost embrace the hardship that can come with what my friend Bill Harwood would call this 9-day camping trip into deep space. And so here they are back on Earth. They know they're going to see their families. The hard part for them now is readjusting to gravity. This amounts to a thrilling zip line up to the helicopter. And this is really something to watch, though. Think about all the different experiences this crew has been through over the last 9 days. They've gone 252,000 miles out to the moon, looped around it, seen extraordinary images of the cosmos, taken pictures of those for the rest of us to experience, and now they've come back and they get a moment like this. It's just, if you're an astronaut, this is a pretty good day, right?
I would say so.
You've had a pretty good week. Nobody had a better view at work than you did over the last week.
Yeah, good point. I was going to say, sometimes when you're in an extraordinary event, it's the afterglow and the days after when you go, oh my goodness, because they're in the moment right now. But I think in the days to come, I hope they're going to keep a journal and jot down everything that's going through their mind, because what an experience. Right now, they're living it and they're doing it, and they're just trying to get to medics and safety and their family. But there's going to be a certain afterglow for sure.
Yeah, in fact, Jeremy Hansen was saying from space that they've started journaling about the whole experience, and the crew has admitted already that they are still processing, this endless series of unusual experiences that they've had, and look, I think you're right. It's going to take some time, and it's maybe only when they get a million questions from their families, for instance, will they, oh, that's right, I forgot about this, and oh, did I happen to tell you about what this one crater that I saw on the moon? They're just going to be an endless series of stories and memories and snapshots from this trip that is going to last these folks for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's the word, processing. You're right. Thank you. And then think about this. They've got tens of thousands of photos that they're also going to reflect on and share, and NASA will study from here on out. So it's just going to be a continuum of this Artemis II successful mission. So what are we looking at right now? Do we have all 4 up, or did this just hoist 1 so far? Do you know by chance?
I don't. I think this is well, it's obviously at least the second person, but I can't.
I think you're right. Yes,
the raft with those people on it is too small.
Right, it might be the second or third person.
I mean, in short order, all 4 will be up, will be in the sky and heading over to back in the sky, and heading over to the recovery ship, which is the USS Mertha.
I didn't even think of that point.
Yeah,
they are back in the sky. Okay, let's listen in.
Third astronaut in the air, getting hoisted quickly back into the first helicopter now. That first helicopter now on its way back to the ship here. We will soon see it land in just a few minutes. Again, all this action happening just 3,000 yards away from us, so a very quick flight back to the flight deck. And now the only person left on the front porch, Commander Reed Wiseman. That second helicopter now making its way.
As you can see, the rescues continue to hoist the astronauts into the helicopter, where they'll go to another medic and be checked over. They'll have a series of medics checking them over in the next couple of days, understandably. And as you can see, I believe they're going to bring their 4th astronaut up. And boy, as you kind of zoom in, I believe that's Reed Wiseman. He'll be the 4th to be hoisted up into the helicopter. What an experience. And as Mark was saying, think about what they've done in a day, from space to landing to being hoisted into the helicopter, back in the air again. Think of that. And let's just watch.
The last astronaut, Commander Reed Wiseman, now off the front porch and almost into the second helicopter. Both now on their way back to the ship where we are, the USS John P. Mertha, just west of San Diego in the Pacific Ocean.
Mark, you've covered this from start to finish. Can I get your thoughts?
Exciting to see our 4 crew members minutes away.
Yeah, first of all, just hugely relieved for the sake of the astronauts and their families that they are back safe and sound, right? I mean, at bottom, these are 4 people who put their lives in the line to take an extraordinary adventure. But if you're trying to define what a successful Artemis II mission was, I asked Reed Wiseman about that once, and he said that one definition of success would be if people barely remembered that this mission ever happened. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, if this mission encourages the rest of us to do more ambitious things, to do more extraordinary things, to land on the moon, to set up a moon colony, to go on to Mars, he said, this mission that they just went through, all the memorable images that we just saw, it will be an afterthought, because it will have led to and inspired all the missions that are to follow. And that's something to consider too. Yes, as a snapshot in time, all of these moments have been wondrous to see, those images from space that the crew sent back. But in the months and years ahead, Wiseman was saying, I hope to see even more extraordinary things, more outlandish things that prove that we really are making the right decision by leaving an emphasis on low Earth orbit and pushing on into deep space.
It looks like they've landed now, and they'll be getting out of the helicopter and I believe headed now to be checked out by more medics. Is that right, Mark?
I can't hear anything anymore.
Okay, you're seeing all of the astronauts now. They were hoisted into the helicopter and they'll be landing soon. And as Mark was saying, this is a remarkable day, and these astronauts, leave it to them to think of a larger future and a larger space exploration program, larger than they are, even though as we're looking at them in time, we are just amazed by what they have done. But they do hope that this project and the mission to the moon and NASA's exploration continues on, and this is an afterthought. Although I must say, I don't see this as an afterthought ever. CBS News reporter Jared Ochacher is probably agreeing with me as well. This is quite a day.
It was quite a day. And what was really cool is before the screening even happened at this viewing party, there was an exclusive 3-day pop-up with NASA, a special partnership between the museum and NASA. So they had an exhibit where they showcased what went into this. And also there were also different personal items that the astronauts sent in to the museum to be displayed. And there were also, even cooler, NASA employees here who were able to speak with people and answer any questions about the mission. And I think that inspired a lot of other people who might want to be future astronauts. And I seriously heard 2 people who are adults talking with NASA employees about how to go about getting a job there.
I believe you. You know, it's definitely opened up the conversation, and it certainly did help by having these astronauts have such lively interviews while they were in space and be able to connect. We really felt connected with them. Didn't you feel that way while they were up in space?
Completely. We were there with them the whole time.
Yeah.
It was just, and it's great to have such a happy ending.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at them land now on the carrier, and I believe all 4 astronauts will be on their way to be checked out once again, which is standard protocol. Imagine what the body has been through. I'm not very good in choppy waters. I don't think I'd be very good in space and choppy waters and then a helicopter and then all that they've gone through.
Good thing you're in the studio now. Safer there. That's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Jared Ochacher. Jared, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to CBS News senior national correspondent Mark Strassman. Mark, this is quite a day. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sort of intrigued by, okay, this has been wonderful. I mean, it's been a huge success. I mean, for NASA, this really, now that the crew's back, this is a home run. But what happens from here? I mean, we have some ambitious planning by NASA for moon missions and moon colonies and pushing onto Mars. It has to be backed up by a real commitment, which often involves money. And does the money exist to bring this ambition and vision to life? We're going to have to see. But clearly, anybody looking on and wondering, okay, is this worth supporting? This makes a pretty good case for that. That we can do these sorts of things, and of course, there's this theory that great countries do great things, and space is one of those great things. And certainly, in this case, a great country did something great.
Absolutely. Mark, you've been covering this from start to finish, and so you saw the excitement, the angst, everything that's been behind mission control and what could go wrong and what could go right, and here we are kind of at the, not the grand finale, but certainly a great ending for now. Take us through that roller coaster ride. There must have been a lot of emotions there, mission control, even though they're very stoic.
They're really, yeah. I mean, for instance, just in the last 20 minutes, NASA employees have poured into mission control. There were applause, there were hugs. There is clearly a celebratory mood in there. Remember that all of these people have been working toward this moment for years now. And this was the first time that in more than 50 years that NASA has tried to send people outside low Earth orbit into deep space, around the moon. I mean, all of that is sort of not happening by accident. It's happening by years of planning and commitment and practice and rehearsals, and then finding the right 4 crew members to go up in that capsule. But behind the astronauts are hundreds of employees who made this moment happen. And so if they're shaking hands and giving each other high fives, they've earned it.
Absolutely. Mark Strassman, thank you for your reporting. It's been a remarkable day. I'm Juliette Goodrich. Thanks for sticking around, being on this ride with us. We want to leave you now with a look back at some of the Artemis II crew's best moments from blastoff to splashdown. Good night.
And here they are, NASA's Artemis II crew.
4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
There's nothing that prepares you for the breathtaking aspect of seeing your home planet.
Hello, Artemis II. This is Apollo astronaut Jim Lovell. Welcome to my old neighborhood.
We will continue our journey even further into space. We do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors. To all of you down there on Earth, we love you from the moon.
This solar eclipse is only visible to the crew on the spacecraft.
It is amazing to watch your home planet disappear behind the moon.
We just went sci-fi.
You really are modern-day pioneers.
Integrity, this is the International Space Station.
And it's fun to be up in space with you at the same time.
Lifelong memories. I'm going to be thinking about and talking about all of these things for the rest of my life, for sure.
$7 p.m. Pacific time. From the pages of Jules Verne to a modern-day mission to the moon, a new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth.
Tonight, splashdown for the crew of Artemis II.
Main chute deployed.
The 4 astronauts return to Earth from their historic mission around the moon.
Splashdown confirmed. A new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete.
Also tonight, tough talk from President Trump as U.S. and Iranian negotiators head to make or break ceasefire talks.
I think it's going to go pretty quickly, and if it doesn't, we'll be able to finish it off one way or the other. It's going well.
The war and your money. Inflation pumped up.